Hello, everyone. This is your right geek, honorary man king, and leader of the Awkward Cough Squad, here with #1 Marmaduke fan and Punch Machine to finish up our retrospective on Denny O'Neill's Ironman run. How are you guys today?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having us on. It's glad to see Tony back in the suit after his long baby bout.
So basically, we've already spoiled the end. Spoiler: he comes back. Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
And how about you? How are you today?
I think I may be breaking up. Are you guys breaking up or am I? I think it's the
I
Russian
hear you
bots.
okay. You guys hear me?
Okay.
I can hear you just fine.
Okay. I guess we're safe from the Russians for right now. So, yes. I mean, other than this Russian shenanigans, I'm doing pretty good. Yeah. Again, I have enjoyed this run so far. I don't want to spoil too much just yet before we get into it. But yeah, I think I would have to agree with Marmaduke, and spoiler warnings. Rhodey makes it through too, so that was quite
Yes.
shocking and surprising. Um,
Yes, but not everyone does, as we shall see.
no,
No. Hello, Evie. How are you today? All right.
Which reminds me, I
So
got to
I
tweet
think
this
what we'll
out.
do. Yeah. Um. I think what we'll do is we'll just jump right to beginning of my drive. So. All right. Good. Glad you're here, Evie. Welcome. Welcome. So we're gonna jump right where we left off. What 30-year spoilers? Oh, hello, Warzord. How are you? Yes. Uh, uh, 30 or 40-year-old spoilers upcoming. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, surprisingly enough, the comic book character that you have known and loved for the last 30 years doesn't die in this comic book. So, spoiler warnings.
Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. Okay, so where we left off last week, we saw Tony basically flying Godzilla out into the ocean where he disappears, right? So now the question is, what happened to him, right? So in the next issue, we see what happened to him. Basically, he almost drowned in his armor. To unlatch his armor and is proving that he deserves the title Invincible.
Tony can never catch a break. He is desperately worried that becoming Iron Man will contribute to his alcoholism. He goes out for one more. Basically, Hawkeye guilt trips him into going out one more time, and he's nearly going to drown again. And the alcoholism and drowning metaphors abound.
And my picture is not loading for some reason. Sorry about that. Oh, it just popped up. Okay. Of course, the second I say, oh no, it's not working. That's yeah. Oh, so yeah, this is him at the last possible second escaping, but escaping from his armor, having to leave his armor behind in the ocean. But now he's in the middle. Oh no. Let's see. All right, it looks like my pictures are going to be slow today. Sorry about that. Okay. So here he is.
Memory.
Yeah. So all I can do is start to swim and pray I'm heading in some kind of right direction. So he's in the middle of the ocean, swimming to, he hopes, some safe shore. But he does eventually make it back, fortunately. Because he finds the downed Quinjet, basically. How'd you get here?
I like the angle that Hawkeye is basically just bullying him.
I saw this jet. Yeah. Anyway, I knew you'd show up sooner or later, so to kill time, I did a little fixing. She won't break any records, but she will reach the nearest coastline. Guess it helps that you're a design genius, huh? Doesn't hurt. Yeah, Hawkeye's role in this is very interesting because he's one of the ones that is aggressively stumping for Tony to become Iron Man again. We saw a little bit of that last time where, yeah, Hawkeye basically bullied Tony into becoming involved in rescuing Tigra, and that's how he ended up in the ocean to begin with. Kind of an interesting role for him, that he would be that invested in getting him back. Meanwhile, we got to check up on what's going on with Rhodey. So in our last stream, what we had was the resolution of the conflict that was building between Tony and Rhodey regarding who was going to wear the mantle, who was going to keep the. It basically ends. The fight basically ends when Tony gives up after paralyzing Rhodey. He gives up and says, I don't want it, Rhodey. You can keep it. But Rhodey still believes he needs to resolve the situation because he's still getting these headaches. So that's where he seeks out the medicine man here. So that brings us to the Spirit Quest section of this particular point in the story. Who would like to comment upon that?
Well, I kind of like the angle that Shaman is both a man of science and he's a magic Native American who will take Rhodey on a spirit journey. It's also kind of a neat setup where he went to Pym at first, and then it just ends with Pym saying, "Oh, well, I've got an idea," and then we immediately pick up in the next issue with him going on a mystical journey. And it's also kind of like the neat classic thing where what he loves most is the armor, and to get to survive the spiritual journey, he literally has to give up the armor. And then the twisteroo at the end is he didn't just lose the armor in a dream. He literally lost the armor in a spirit world. So he doesn't have the armor anymore. And Shaman just didn't mention that to him.
Yeah, I really like the, well, you didn't ask line. That master level.
You didn't ask,
Is he usually that big of a jerk? I'm not familiar with Two Young Men.
I am not that familiar with him either.
First time I've ever seen him in anything, unless it was like a little, incidental. Oh, he showed up in the panel of the Avengers or something.
Yeah.
He seems like a very kind of like a Doctor Strange type guy, right? Like very in tune with the mystical scientific world, that side of the Marvel universe.
This is where, in this part of the story, this is where the artist gets to play around a little bit. Marm, I know you commented on Twitter. It seemed like they wanted to get groovy for a little bit in the art.
I think,
so here we are in the weird
all this stuff ties
dimension.
in.
Yeah. So this is just pictures of the Spirit Quest. Yep. So in this weird dimension, we have all of these obstacles that they have to get past in order to get to this gorge where the answer is supposedly found. So it's kind of a quest narrative where we're trying to get to this location where apparently he's going to figure out the overall spiritual answer to his recent troubles.
It's also kind of neat that they've proposed a lot of pseudoscientific explanations. It's caused by the energy of the helmet's brain scan pattern. So we eventually just have it literally it's all in Rhodey's head, or it's Rhodey having a spiritual problem. BS science is fun, but they actually, I think it was clever to actually connect the solution to the headache problem with Rhodey's resentment and jealousy of Tony Stark problem. And he's very noticeably different after this. One issue after this, he's suggesting to Tony that Tony take up the Ironman mantle again, which would seem like a really radical change for his character, except that we have this transformation, heart transformation before that.
Right. The realization that, well, we'll get to it as we flip through the pictures here, but basically what Rhodey realizes that he feels guilty for occupying this place. Warzord says that 2 young men is from Alpha Flight. Well, that would be why I don't know him, because I haven't read any Alpha Flight at all. Sorry about that, audience members, if you're Alpha Flight fans. But okay.
Yeah, it says they're Canadian superheroes, so that may explain why no one's ever heard of them.
The story I've heard about Alpha Flight is some really talented artist and writer working on it, but they hated Alpha Flight. So they hated the characters and they hated the project, but they had this highly professional attitude, and they sort of accidentally produced this very beloved Alpha Flight. So Alpha Flight fans are super diehard fans, and the creators hate talking about Alpha Flight because for them it was just kind of a crappy job that they had for a while.
All right, so we have this page here.
So it's more like the Road Rovers of comic books, I guess.
More trippiness. Him thinking about Tony Stark. And that's the thing that's really getting his goat. This one, are you prepared to give up the thing you cherish most? Are you prepared to learn the truth? You can walk forward into the gorge and be cured, or you can walk away a coward. What am I going to give up? Go forward and learn. And as he walks forward, his gauntlet disappears. And he realizes it's the tin suit he gives up. You're saying the armor's the most important thing? The armor and your identity as Iron Man. Malarkey. Look, whoever you are, a joke's a joke, but this isn't real funny anymore. Give me back the helmet. No. So he's losing all of these pieces of the armor. And as Marm points out, it actually is he physically loses it. And this is something that is very difficult for him, right? So we have here, okay, you win. Ever since I was just a kid in South Philly, just a poor black kid, I wanted to be somebody. I was never the brightest kid around, but I worked. I tried hard. And I was good with machines, with cars and later planes, not understanding them, but making them go. So I joined the Army, became an officer, a pilot, volunteered for overseas, got a couple of medals. Big deal, right? Pilot, officer, hero.
I kind of like this. There's this, maybe this is intentional, maybe not, but there's this parallel between Rhodey and Tony where both of them sort of learn by doing. Tony invents things by accident because he likes working in the shop, and Rhodey clearly is intelligent, right? But doesn't understand how a plane works, but he knows how to make a plane work, so that lets him advance it in the army, and it lets him kind of like operate and fly the suit without really understanding the technology behind it. He's technically competent without being a scientist. It's a really neat strength weakness for him.
Mm-hmm. But it wasn't enough. Never enough. After the army, I went to work for Tony Stark, became his #1 flyer and his best friend. And that wasn't enough because I secretly envied him. Then he climbed inside a bottle and I was forced to assume part of his identity. I didn't want to, was scared to. But once inside the tin suit, that was enough. I'd made it. I was the top. And the headaches started. I felt I didn't deserve to be Iron Man. I felt guilty? You, talking to me. You're my conscience, aren't you? No, I am your soul. The headaches, I was causing them myself because of the guilt and because I'd stolen something that belonged to Tony Stark, right? So what we have, basically what's going on in this story, actually, it's another sort of parallel, similar to the parallel that Mardick's talking about, in that we have Rhodey and Tony here both trying to determine what their true identities actually are. We have here Rhodey learning that his identity ultimately is not to be Iron Man. He's got a different destiny, a different path. And at the same time, we have Tony realizing that he is supposed to be Iron Man. So that's interesting, that parallel there. So this is the page where he finally realizes that finally gives up the armor entirely. Hold on a second. Let's see. So this is the naked Rhodey page. Yeah, maybe I did steal it, but I don't have to keep on stealing. Go ahead and take it. So what's interesting about this is today, in current year comics, we have a lot of people, we have a lot of heroes stealing other heroes' identities without recognizing that that's what's happening, right? But here it's almost like Denny O'Neil thinks that Rhodey deserves to be something else instead of just being the person who inherits someone else's identity. It's kind of strange, you know, in light of what's been going on in current year.
Well, is it really strange though? Or is it just, you know, frighteningly appropriate?
Well, he's looking at Rhodey as the parallel between the two shows. He's really thinking of the two characters as heroes who need to go through the hero's journey. Rhodey talks about like being a poor black kid from Philly in his kind of like mental breakdown, but or his emotional breakdown where he cries and lets his manly feelings out. But it doesn't feel like Rhodey being a black man is changing his core heroic journey, right? Like the basics of you got to man up, you got to get past your resentment. Those themes are consistent between him and Tony, right? And
Well, in the context of this story, I would agree. Like I think it's very rational and it's very well made. I think my question is more about the parallels that Right Geek is drawing between this story and current year Marvel, which, you know, again, this is a big problem with superheroes just stealing each other's identities. And you know, one of the things that I found really interesting about this whole sequence in particular is the way that they kind of circle back and bring in these little allusions to the Iron Man suit as an addiction, right? Because we've discussed this with Tony before. You know how the Iron Man suit is part of his addiction. It's not nowhere near as bad as his alcoholism, but it's still something that he relies on. Um, and how this is starting to become an addiction with Rhodey, right? And as you can see, when he's having this conversation, he's getting that kind of it's like the addict on the couch being confronted, right? He starts getting angry and he starts denying it, and he starts bartering and bargaining, right? He resolves it pretty quickly, but I think that there is this parallel between like they're making a point about our search for identity being wrapped up in addictions, right? Like maybe addictions are caused by us having some issue with who we are and needing some other outlet to assert who we are, rather than facing up to difficult truths about our desires or ourselves. And
Could it be another like reconnection to like Buddha was quoted at the end of Tony's
oh yeah,
alcoholism arc, right? So then you might have this idea in Buddhism of to because life is suffering, you have to sacrifice desire itself
yeah,
in order to get
suffering is
past the
caused by
suffering of
desire.
life.
Yeah, suffering is caused by desire, and in this case, you know, Rhodey's desire is to be, the big hero guy, like the alpha dog and the most important man in the room, right? And of course, his desire is being dashed by Tony being the big alpha dog, and he has to go back and be beta, virgin Rhodey versus Chad Tony, right? And that's causing him issues because now he can get the Iron Man suit, and now he can be Alpha Man, Alpha Iron Man. And I guess to bring it back to what Right Geek was saying, so I don't go on too far of a tangent. Could this be like a symptom of current year Marvel, right? Like could it be that one of the reasons why we're seeing all these superheroes unironically trying to steal each other's identities, and this obsession with that kind of storyline is because the people writing for Marvel right now are dealing with those same sorts of issues, right? Like they're kind of they don't know who they are, and they're very disconnected, unbased, I guess. So they're lashing out just like Rhodey, like grasping at straws and trying to steal other people's identities in order to make themselves more complete.
Unfulfilled desire in an artist might cause them to create art where they're engaging in wish fulfillment. Basically, I'm going to make my screw you, Dad. I'm going to make the X-Men villain look like you, Dad.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, except in this case, it's like, screw you. I'm going to make this superhero, exactly what I want to be, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, that's what I'm kind of worrying. Like, I'm wondering if Denny is just like he's writing a story that seems relevant to current year because current year artists are in this same kind of position as Rhodey is right now. They just don't realize it yet. Right, like they're Rhodey like 5-10 pages ago. They need to get to Rhodey right here. I mean, maybe I'm just overthinking things, but that would be my throne for this.
Yeah. I think that a lot of your observations, Punch, are very astute. I have sometimes when I complain to Mama Geek over dinner about current year comics, well, one of the things I've said to her is that I think that today's writers, the writers especially, are just, they don't have a lot of life experience and they're just not very interesting people. They have basically decided the only thing that is interesting about them is their surface characteristics. Right? So they have taken no time to actually develop a personality of any kind. And that comes through in their work. Their work basically has no personality. It's all surface. There's no depth to it. We and we do also have the, as you say, the uncertainty about their identity. They're clinging to these easy labels because they actually don't have a lot of solid foundation for who they are. And there's an element of laziness too. There's an element of laziness too, because to develop a character like Rhodey, who, just FYI, he later on in this decade, he becomes War Machine. He becomes his own identity, his own kind of hero, right? This run right here is what's starting him on that journey to becoming that identity that is his own, right? But the thing with that is Rhodey becoming War Machine took many, many years of development, right? They first had to have him be a supporting character, serving as Tony Stark's pilot and being there as his best friend and battle buddy and all of that, establish him, right, as the supporting character, then have him go through this journey of realizing that he wants even more than that, but not at the cost of stealing what doesn't belong to him. And then finally in the late 80s, he becomes War Machine. So it basically took an entire decade to develop that. And I think a lot of today's creators don't want to go through that, right? They don't want to actually do the work to develop new characters that have their own identity. They just want to piggyback off of something that's already successful. So there's an element of laziness involved.
Well, I mean, I guess not really to walk it back or anything, but maybe to soften the blow a bit. Because again, one of my things is like, well, if it wasn't complete crap, it would actually be really good, right? But I think like if I were a writer at Marvel right now, right? You figure you've got like how long has Marvel been around? It's got to be almost a century now, right? Like 70, 80 years.
Comic Spider a child of the 60s, right? It was they started in the 60s, so their hit characters started coming out in the 60s on. But I think they had like a little prehistory before that.
Okay, well, still,
I
mean,
they had prehistory before that, but the Marvel as we understand it today basically started with Fantastic Four in 62.
Yeah, I mean, good like 60 years.
Marvel as we understand it's like 60 years, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And these guys that have been working at Marvel for the last 60 years, like they're some of the most talented people in the comic book industry, but possibly even in literature too. Being that this is a nerd-friendly place, I don't feel ashamed to say that. But you figure you come into this industry, right? You're standing on the shoulders of proverbial giants. It's got to feel really intimidating, right? You probably feel exactly like Rhodey does. Like, like when I was in college, when I was in high school, I was the smartest kid in my class. And then when I was in college, I was such a big brain and I was so creative and I was the best kid in art school. But now here I am at Marvel and it's like, Tony Stark's right over there. Denny O'Neil, his office was down the street, was down the hall or something. And oh God, now all of a sudden, your boss comes around and he says, hey, Bright Geek Marmaduke fan, I'm giving you the Iron Man suit, right? I'm letting you write Iron Man now. So now you've got the suit and you've got all the power. And, of course it's going to go to your head. Of course you're going to be like Rhodey. So I guess, I don't know. My thing would be like, for current year Marvel, maybe if they just wait, maybe 5-10 years and have more life experience and go on a drug-fueled trip with Michael Two Youngmen. Maybe these authors will come to the same realization as Rhodey and have
will millennials have something like the baby boomer experience of outgrowing your weird college socialist years, basically.
Yeah,
I think like the process of having kids helps with that because it sort of forces you to recognize there are realities. You can't use Marxist theory to explain to your 2-year-old how to not like I don't
Well,
know marker on the wall.
Well, that's going to be a trouble there. That's going to be a problem then, given how many millennials are transitioning and getting older and stuff. Maybe that won't happen. But I guess what I'm saying is I would hope, my hope for the future is that every current year Marvel writer will have an experience just like this panel, right? Falling naked into a pit of flames, but coming out.
Wait a minute.
Like I literally wants to destroy all of the comic book industry. Oh no!
Yeah, I mean, there we go. That's my hot take, a literal hot take, pit of flames hot take.
Yeah, pit of flames hot take. I also want to say, in fairness to Rhodey too, that he didn't actually steal it initially. He became Iron Man, and it wasn't really a choice of his. It was something that he had to do in order to protect Tony Stark's legacy, essentially. So it's not. So he's being a little unfair to himself, I think. Here, he didn't actually steal it. Now, if he had kept it, it would have been stealing, right? But really, what he was doing was safeguarding it until such time as Tony was actually capable of taking up the mantle again. And that,
I mean, that's true, but he's a heroic archetype, isn't he? Right? He's actually a very humble and heroic man. So of course he's going to be a bit self-deprecating and be like, "Oh, I stole it," even though he didn't, right? Because that's just what a sweet dude he is.
It's it's kind of like in the last stream when I mentioned that, Tony thinking that being Iron Man is the reason why he started drinking is not 100% correct on his part. He's a little bit confused there. What was actually driving Tony to drink was not being Iron Man, but the fact that he had to be Iron Man in order to be authentic. So it's not the Iron Man mantle itself that was doing it. It was something deeper, having to do with his feeling that he cannot be his authentic self, that eventually pushed him into it. So, both of them being heroic archetypes will be harder on themselves than they really deserve. Warzord says.
By the way, kind of relating this to just like, oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the people that worked in Marvel in the 80s and 90s at least knew who the characters were or were comic book fans. Then he adds, the new crop loves Harry Potter and Steven Universe. Or the X-Men cartoon from the 90s. And that's about as far as their knowledge of the comic books go, right? Yeah. So we have that issue too.
Oh, well, the X-Men cartoon was really good, though.
No, the X-Men cartoon, I understand. I was too old by the time it came on, but I understand that it was, in fact, quite good.
I heard it cut out after Warzord's comment.
Hello. Everybody still here?
Hello.
I'm here, and I hear Punchy, but I can't hear Right Geek.
Okay, I can hear Right Geek, I think. Right Geek?
Shoot.
Okay,
can you hear me?
Do not. Now I do, yes. God, we're boomers. Oh God.
Now I hear both of you.
Oh, gosh. There might be some delay going on my end.
Yeah, we're like Redditors in Ukraine. That's the level we've got. We've got Redditor Ukraine volunteer level of boomerisms right now. But yeah, the new crop loves Harry Potter and Steven Universe. I think that was where we left off.
Yeah,
that's kind of depressing. Do you think that the next crop will only know MCU? Is it all just going to be movie fans?
Captain America, is the greatest moment in cinematic history. That type of what do you call it? That type of hot take.
I think that's already sort of happening. It's definitely happening, I think, in modern day Iron Man comics, that people that the current day writers are trying to write MCU Tony and doing a bad job of it, and have completely lost touch with this Tony that we are discussing now. So I think it is already happening to a certain extent.
That's too bad. Well, I'd much rather, for me personally, I'd much rather see bad MCU Tony than Steven Universe Tony. But you know,
whatever the crap Christopher Can't Write Well is writing right now, which is not either of those. It's something even worse.
Don't give him any ideas.
Oh my gosh. I don't want to go off on a tangent talking about issue 17, so I won't. But it was terrible on so many dimensions. Yes, yeah.
Was that the one?
It was terrible on so many dimensions.
Where he does the thing to Rhodey, which I'm not going to say because spoilers, because that actually is like a newer comic.
That actually is a current year spoiler, yeah. So yeah, the one where he does the thing to Rhodey, yeah.
Okay, he kisses him
and
passionately, yeah.
And because I did a whole thread on Twitter about the practical wrongness of that, and I did it because you
doing okay with Google
about this. Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hello.
Okay. Hello. Yes, we're a couple of boomers here.
Dos vidania, comrade.
Yes. Warzord says Russia has hacked the internet. That's probably what's going on, yeah.
Okay, well, do you want to keep soldiering on through the Iron Man comic and see how far we can get before we're all dead?
Yeah. I am going to continue to soldier on. But anyway, just one quick thing about the issue where he does the thing to Rhodey, because it's relevant to what we've been discussing. Before he does the thing to Rhodey, that we're not going to say because it does spoil our current year comic, we have this little scene where Cosmic God Tony basically screams about how everyone thinks you made a better Iron Man, like he's some immature, insecure little child that can't consider the possibility that anyone would be better than him or something. And I did this whole thread because I'm literally in the middle of the run where Rhodey was Iron Man and Tony the whole time was like, yeah, you are a better Iron Man because you're like a fighter pilot and stuff. So it's like,
yeah, I mean that makes
sense. The current one is like, yeah, obviously Cantwell has not read any of Denny O'Neil's Iron Man comics at all and has no connection to anything that has ever happened in Iron Man's history. For him to even contemplate the idea that Tony would not absolutely accept that Rhodey is a better Iron Man than him, it just blew my mind that this was even an element in the comic. And then of course there were so many other things that were bad about that comic too, but I don't want to veer off on this tangent, so I'll stop there.
Okay, we'll do it on the next stream. We'll do a Why Can't Write Well is Terrible stream or something.
Maybe that should be my next stream. I mean, we did a little bit of that with Marm and I have done some of Cantwell's comics, but we can do a catch up. Hey, here's what's been going on. It's even worse than we thought.
It was punishment.
Yeah. But yeah,
So-
now that we've been reading all the fun comics from the 80s, and now I'm gonna actually force you to do real homework. So anyway. Yeah, Marm, if you have to reconnect because you're not receiving us, that's fine.
I'll try real quick.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
RIP.
Sorry, audience members. Yeah. Sorry, audience members, for the boomerisms going on here.
I blame Putin for all of this. I don't know why, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it anyways.
Yeah, so here's more. I decided to pull up more of Hawkeye trying to bully Tony into being Iron Man again.
He's kind of a jerk.
So we have here.
I mean, no offense to Hawkeye fans, but he's not really selling himself very well as a very nice Avenger.
All right, Mom, can you hear us? Hey, you even sound better. Okay, so I was saying that we were getting back to Hawkeye trying to convince Tony to be Iron Man again. So we have this scene here. You can save your breath, Hawkeye. My mind is made up. You can't make me put on a suit of armor again. I don't expect you to understand. I just expect you to respect my wishes. I'm through with being Iron Man. I have my hands full being just plain Tony Stark, inventor. It was a mistake coming here in armor to deliver Rhodey's resignation. It was a mistake letting you know I was the original Iron Man. But what's done is done. I don't want to compound my mistakes further. Sorry, Stark, you still haven't convinced me. You still haven't convinced me you mean what you say. All I'm trying to do is give you a pep talk. You want convincing? All right, listen. When the armor's power failed and I plummeted into the middle of the Pacific yesterday, I felt the weight of it pulling me down. And I thought of all those months I was crawling in Bowery gutters, sucking death from bottles, and what had taken me there. Maybe no single thing was totally responsible, but a part of it was never learning who I was, who I am, and a part of that was hiding in metal shells for so much of my life. Now here he's being a little more accurate, because it really is the real issue was that desire to be authentic that was being thwarted. So the armor was dragging me down in more ways than one, have been dragging me down for years. Let's see.
I like how earlier we floated the idea that the armor was contributing to his problem, and now it's kind of like alluding to what you said earlier. He's now more specifically honing in on what the problem was, which is useful because he could easily just blame the armor and that's that. And now he's figured out what specifically it was about him using the armor that was the problem. It was more like the way he was using it rather than being Iron Man in and of itself, which could be a good thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the real tragedy here is that Tony could have solved all of this by just listening to the Right Geek stream and checking her Twitter timeline. So, add on you, Tony. Do so in the future.
He had time travel capabilities, I'm sure.
Hawkeye's personality is pretty jerky. Is he always this petulant about everything, or was that just like early '80s Hawkeye?
He was kind of a jerk in the Avengers comic too. Like he'd always be the one busting Captain America's balls over how he was running the Avengers.
Yeah. He just in general, he's well-meaning, but he does have a tendency to bust people's balls. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's not like evil or anything, he's not, God, this guy's horrible, but he's kind of a he's not going to get many upvotes on Reddit. I'll put it that way.
Very, very, very early on in the Iron Man comics, he started off as sort of an accidental villain, but that wasn't his intention. It just sort of, he got misinterpreted that way. And then he was like, well, fuck, if no one is going to accept me as a hero, then I guess I am going to be a villain for a little bit. He got involved with the Black Widow for a bit. But then eventually he started flying straight again. And that's when he joined the Avengers and started busting Captain America's balls. So
like OG anti-hero or something, like an anti-hero before it was cool.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, basically. Yeah. I'm just suggesting.
Hey, Tony, are you sure you don't want to be Iron Man again? I think you can do a really good job being Iron Man again, or just giving us a copy of your armor, because we could totally use some Iron Man armor, or you as Iron Man around here.
Yeah, he's just really, really hammering the point. Yeah, now he's like trying to manipulate him. Yeah, why don't you just use our lab so you can work on some of the armor ideas that you have. Yeah, that's fine. We're not. I'm going to take a different attack. I'm not going to try to directly pressure you, but I'm just going to, let you use our vast Avengers resources to start experimenting with your armor ideas. And, maybe as you're doing that, you'll realize that you actually do kind of love it and you'll be Iron Man again. So it gets a little bit more clever.
Is he basically like the good guy version of Obadiah Stane right now? Instead of leaving like the booze bottle in his hotel room, he leaves the fully functional Iron Man lab in the basement or something. Right?
Yeah. In a way, yeah. But it's like positive manipulation instead of negative manipulation. Yeah. Oh yeah, so here's a panel of Obadiah Stane not realizing that Tony is sober again. Let's see.
Is this the issue with the backstory yet, or is that further on?
That's a little further on, but it's coming.
Okay, we're gonna do the backstory then, like the flashbacks and stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's coming.
Disregard I said anything. Forget I said anything until then. All right.
Okay. Oh yes. Here's Stane being so wrong. Yes, I studied him. I can read his weaknesses like a map. He will never be able to crawl from the gutter. As for Kay, we will send someone for her, someone capable of doing the job. Yeah, so Bethany has been looking for Tony, by the way. I think we saw a little snapshot of that in the last stream.
Bethany had a great line where she says to Stane, the problem is light isn't like a game. Games have decisive ends, but life has a tendency to keep moving on and changing, which is exactly Stane's weakness, which is he wins the game. He wins the chess game with Tony Stark and assumes based on that Tony Stark's a drunk alcoholic forever, and I won the game. And Tony's surprise is that he comes back from it in a way Stane didn't expect. So Stane's a great, scenery chewing villain, maniacally playing his chess pieces and thinking he's won the day. And that line from Bethany really sets up his downfall, where Tony proves him wrong by proving that he's more complicated than a chess piece.
All right, so here's Tony in the Avengers lab. Becoming somebody like Iron Man again, maybe? See? Hawkeye, stop it. No, not that. You sure seem to be enjoying yourself tinkering with that new armor. I like working out new ideas. And somehow it's easiest to work them out in terms of armor. So that's more display of him working with his hands instead of working through theoretical science. That's the way my mind operates, I guess. You said there are a couple of reasons. What's the second? I'm not going to be Iron Man, but somebody should be. Jim Rose probably. So he's still thinking, I'm not going to wear this armor. I'm going to give this to Rhodey, right? Yeah. And whatever happened to the other set of armor? The clunky set you had on. I had to shed it when I went into the ocean. When I was dumping Demonicus' monster, it's at the bottom of a lot of water. Probably lost forever. Meanwhile, someone actually finds the armor. And that's kind of the conflict with this particular issue. Dum dum dum. Yeah.
Very nice cover plot relation, by the way. The cover has some mystery person claiming to be the real Iron Man and squaring up against the two traditional Iron Man armors. And what you find out is both of the Iron Man armors are being controlled by a villain
Nice.
or a mysterious
Yeah.
magic force. And the mysterious new guy is Tony in the goofy suit. So it's a great head fake. It makes you think that the new guy is going to be the
Yeah.
villain when it's actually Tony.
Yeah, so here's the kind of weird magical spirit guy has taken over the armor that Rhodey left behind, and Dr. Demonicus has taken over the armor that Tony left behind. Yeah, so we think it's Tony and Rhodey in the two armors, but it's not. Head fake. Jim, Tony, turn on the TV and watch an old buddy of yours shoot off his mouth. TV says, was shocked to hear that Iron Man nearly killed two innocent young people, newlyweds at that. Obadiah Stane, although Iron Man is a former employee of the company I now own, I feel no hesitation saying he should be stopped before he does kill someone. Can you beat that? He cheats you out of what you built, and now he badmouths you. Not me, Iron Man. Since I created Iron Man, I have a responsibility. To do what?
To do what?
To do what?
Dot question mark.
Yeah.
Hawkeye's the worst boyfriend ever.
It's in the Avengers Lab in its NY mansion. Yeah, it's there too, but I think the West Coast. This is the West Coast headquarters, obviously, and I think they just built another lab there.
Yeah, they have labs all over the place. It's all the labs they want.
Okay, so this is So here's where Tony becomes spare parts man. Hawkeye, are there any spare costumes around? I don't know. I probably have some things in storage in the storage area. Why? There's something I've got to do anonymously. Soon, I'll put on the gauntlets and the power packs and the armor I've been working on. With this bodysuit, a cape, a mask, and a helmet, I'm all set. We got us a brand new superhero. What are you going to call yourself? Do I have to call myself anything? Marm called this porn stash Tony, or Captain Porn Stash. What is it? Something like that.
Tom Selleck. Tom Selleck is Tony Stark. Yeah. Tony Stark is Captain Porn Stash. Yeah.
So we have them joking around. Sure, every good guy's got to have a fancy handle.
Nope.
It's sensational. Nuclear physicists. I know zilch about physics. My point exactly. So we have some fun little humor in here.
That's a great one-liner because it's a variation on, as nuclear physicists, you guys are comedians, right? And so he just takes that line and twists it, and Hawkeye doesn't get it. So,
is that a thing? I've never heard that before.
I feel like I've heard jokes like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I was wondering was if this was a setup, if this was like kind of a troll fake out or something, right? Like if the artists and the writers had presented this character as like, hey kids, this is going to be the new Iron Man, aren't you excited, kind of thing. What was that the case at the time? Like, was it like promoted as like, oh hey, Tony Stark's going to be this guy from now on?
That's definitely a Right Geek one.
Yeah. Like deep lore for Iron Man.
I don't think so. Yeah, no, I don't believe so. Because it was changed back so quickly. You know, I think it was just a one issue, one off. I don't think it was meant to be anything else.
Okay.
Even as a troll,
I interpret
I'm not even
I
sure
interpret
that
this whole
Marvel
thing.
Unified.
I interpreted this whole thing as another like the superheroics as a mirror of Tony's state thing, where he's not sure he wants to be Iron Man right now, but he's a hero, so he's got to go out there and be a hero. So he just assembles a bunch of dorky looking spare parts. So he's still a hero. The man Tony Stark is still a hero even when he's in this goofy outfit. And this is the last thing he's got to do before he can reclaim the armor and become Iron Man again. Is he has to spend a little time as spare parts man and have like this assembled goofy superhero identity, right? He's in a mixed up state right now, so his parts are mixed up.
Is it really that goofy though? I mean, it's a little goofy, but compared to like Hawkeye or something, I mean, come on, you know, this is the era of goofy superheroes, right? I would think this would be at least par for the course.
They used to have something called like Amalgam Man, where it.
I was going to say, I think that number one Marmaduke fan has it exactly right. I think that the purpose of this was exactly to be a metaphor for what is actually going on in Tony's mind in terms of how he feels regarding his superhero identity. So he's not, you know, he hasn't accepted that he's Iron Man yet. He is the hero. He's starting to accept that he should be a hero. He has not accepted yet that he is Iron Man. So he's still kind of in this confused, discombobulated state of, you know, I want to go out and do good, but I'm not sure I want to assume my old identity. So I don't really know what I want to be. So I'm just going to throw together whatever parts I've got lying around.
Also, he ends up in a if anyone has watched or read My Hero Academia, there's literally like a plot point where he's falling, and the only way to save his life is to like do a super burst at the ground, and Tony's literally put in that position. So, hey, Shonen Jump, weeaboos, read Marvel and DC comics. You'll get lots of great Shonen Jump style action beats.
I'm going to see if I can find that because I might have taken a picture of that. Oh, yeah. So here's Rhodey. Boy, am I glad I let Tony handle this by himself.
That's really sad, given all the crap happens later.
Yeah. Boy, am I glad I let Tony handle this by himself. I was afraid my sin as Iron Man had totally wrecked his urge to be a hero. This proves that's not the case. So we're gradually working him back. Okay. Okay, so I did take a picture of the jump, but yeah, Marm is right. There was these comics do have some shonen battle manga stuff. So if you like that stuff, definitely read these comics.
Yeah, well, it was interesting too when he was falling like that. Hello, you guys hear?
I can hear you, Punchy.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to say we don't have the pages here, but it was interesting when he was falling like that. It was basically because he boomered some rescue operation, right? And the thing was, like, if he had his Iron Man suit, there would have been absolutely no problems, right? The whole issue arose because he was still kind of waffling on whether he should be Iron Man or not.
Right, he missed it. He missed an air pocket, so the air pocket just sucked him out of the plane. He's about to just fall, fall to his death.
he falls out of his own plane in you know this crazy like boomer pratfall moment. And it's you know I was thinking like Karate Kid and Mr. Miyagi kind of stuff, right? I don't know if that's too nerdy a reference or not. You guys familiar with that?
Oh, I love Karate Kid. That's like that was like Rocky for 12-year-olds once upon a time.
There's that really famous saying from Mr. Miyagi. It's you walk on the right side of the road and you're okay. You walk on the left side of the road and you're okay. But if you try and walk down the middle of the street, you get squished like a grape, right? So his point is that you either karate do or you karate don't. And if you're kind of in the middle, then you're screwed up. And in this case, it's like, just Iron Man do or Iron Man don't. And if you want to be spare parts man, then you're going to wind up falling out of a plane and nearly killing yourself. So I thought that was good. Actually, this was around the same time Karate Kid came out as well, wasn't it? So
yeah,
I feel like they were just grabbing anything from the movies, and then remixing them in the comics. Yeah,
I mean that, of course, that was related to Buddhism as well. Like the middle way concept. I don't know. So I think there's layers upon layers upon layers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I have here. This is where Tony learns for the first time that Bethany K was looking for him. Yeah, and Clyde's not too happy about that. I knew I should have let you play in traffic when you were a baby. But Clyde is kind of like, because Clyde is like into Tony and doesn't want to admit it.
Pretty dark considering what's being set up here, though. I don't know if this was intended as a setup or not, but ouch.
It may have been, going back. I mean, I didn't pick up on it when I was reading through because that thing actually came out kind of unexpectedly. But yeah, you could be right. It could be a setup.
Yeah. Now here's Rhodey trying to convince Tony to be Iron Man again. All right, next. Come on, scroll down. All right. Okay, Tony, if you say so. Mind if I put on the radio? No, go ahead. So this is the Thunder Sword issue. News is that the man known as Thunder Sword is once again at large. Check this out. One punch. He threatens to destroy whole sections of Highwood. I guess we can't let that happen.
My favorite part.
We got to help him do it faster.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, I guess.
Yeah, but like I said, I'm not up to taking him on alone. You won't have to. We'll double team him. Punchy shared that one too. Wah. I'll get the extra armor. It's permanent, but with your help. And then Bethany calls. Rats.
Something else that kind of makes Stane's attack a surprise is how silly and romantic everything is for Circuit's Maximus. It feels like they've established a new normal as like a cozy little, weird family starting their tech startup out in California. And so when Stane comes and like blows the place up, that hurts more because we see this little, cutesy family interaction between Tony and the gang.
It's the slice of life anime episode that all of a sudden turns into like the worst parts of Berserk, like at a flick of a switch. So.
Okay, here's more Karate Kid stuff with Bethany taking down the room service.
Kick him in the nods, yeah. Yeah, she does really well against these ninja guys.
Yep.
These GI Joe style ninjas showing up, and
she is an early version of a badass female heroine. Yeah.
Now, do you have any
It's
comment
weird,
on like
though.
her change? Because it's weird how she goes to Obadiah Stane's hideout and then suddenly she's like all over Obadiah Stane. Like I couldn't tell if they were implying like, oh, he had his creepy guy brainwasher, or she's pretending to love him.
There was some brainwashing sequence, wasn't there? Like right when she gets there.
Yeah. I believe that it's been a while since I've read the follow-up comics, but I believe that they did like a brain swap between her and Madame Mask.
Okay, yeah, because I remember him drugging Madame Mask. Yeah. Okay, so this is more of him. This is more of him messing with Tony. Wahaha! I'm gonna put her brain into Toby's GF so that I can cut Tony, even though I using the power of mind control.
Yeah. I was gonna say that I'm sure Punchy would agree that isn't it strange that we have this this female character and love interest that turns out to be able to hold her own fairly well in a fight. I mean, I thought that only started happening with female characters in like the last 5 years, right?
Yeah, I've never seen this before in my life, even though this comic book's older than I am. It's never happened. And I mean, the interesting thing, like what I would say about that is that yes, like she does wind up being the damsel in distress, right? Actually, what was she the one that gets the Kiki's delivery service shot, or was that another one of them?
No, this was her. Yeah, and that's something only like degenerates like me and Punchy would know. There's one upskirt shot on her.
I mean, it's pretty obvious. There's like a whole like half a millimeter of white patch there. So I mean, it's pretty obvious.
Well, that's like an '80s artist being as dangerous as possible. Yeah, in the 13-year-old comics.
But yeah, I mean, she does wind up, getting and turning into the damsel in distress and blah 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 blah. But of course, through most of this comic, the damsel in distress has been Tony, right? He's been the dude in distress that everybody else has to save, right?
Yeah.
So again, I mean, I don't want to get into like GG and all that other crap and all that sort of feminist, because it's been analyzed to death and it's been counted to death and everything else like that. But I think this whole comic run is a really great example of why that sort of current year feminist critique of 1980s 1990s pop culture is bunk. I guess I'll call it bunk. Mostly bunk, almost entirely bunk.
Women are damsels in distress if you ignore every scene in the movie or the comic book where they're being badasses. If you only pay attention to when they're in distress, then they look like damsels in distress.
If you cherry pick everything, then you just show the Kiki's delivery service panel, then it's like, oh god, the male gaze. But I could just as easily just show that one panel of her kicking a guy in the balls and be like, oh yeah, this is all misandry. I getting kicked in the balls all the time. But or it's ninja. What would that be? Like hatred of ninjas, ninja phobia, something like that.
Yeah. And Punchy also noted on Twitter that in this issue, Tony decides to go with a woman, leaving Rhodey to get creamed by a guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I mean, it's not subtle.
But,
I'm telling you, it's really not subtle. They know what they do.
Yeah. What was that panel that that Marm you said got ruined by Punchy.
The villain says, when I'm done with you, you'll be nothing but a bloody pulp inside that armor. And Rhodey says, man, you do come on strong. And he seems to enjoy it. He seems to enjoy it far too much. Dang you, Punchy.
Dang you, Punchy, you ruined everything.
It's not me. It's the zeitgeist. It's the times we live in, I guess. The seduction of the innocent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I have to admit, a lot of times I can't. I have to admit that a lot of times I can't avoid putting on the 2022 glasses. It's like the current year goggles are hard to shuck.
By the way, one interesting thing about maybe like Tony's irrational problem is he's still dressing up as Iron Man. It's just it doesn't count because he's dressing up in the old silver Iron Man uniform, right? Which is technologically inferior to the modern armor. So he clearly still wants to be a hero and fly around and save people. He's just scared if he puts on the good stuff, that'll be him falling back into alcoholism. So he actually he actually needs to get a up-to-date, current iOS updated version of the Iron Man armor so he can be competent and effective again. Maybe just like another subtle way of reinforcing the super heroic element with the character problem element, where he's grappling with his destiny. He's scared of being Iron Man again, and so he comes up with an out where it's I'm not technically being Iron Man if I use my old 1960s model, right?
Right? Yeah. Okay, I have a cat who is desperate to be in my lap.
Oh yeah, bring the cat on. Hello, cat. I was going to say, so this is basically like a drunk getting a wine cooler or like a Zemo or something, then I guess. Like, well, it's not technically. Oh, hello. He looks kind of like mine.
Hello.
He's more white than mine. Mine's got black all over.
Aww.
But
woof, woof, woof.
Very similar. Disavow the Marmadog.
See, I need trigger warnings for cats on the screen. But that one's okay, I guess, because it's not a cartoon cat. It's cartoon cats that I want to chase.
Okay. Actually, does Marm really chase cats? I don't remember him really. Wasn't his thing that he was incredibly lazy, like Garfield?
Marmaduke's thing is that he's such a big dog that he'll sit on his owner's lap and like he's a little lap dog. And I guess that's kind of the gag of the series. Yeah.
He's too big.
Yeah, he doesn't think in thought bubbles. He doesn't complain about Mondays. He's just a really big dog.
Okay. All right. Well, that was our stream on the Marmaduke comic. Guys, enjoy, everyone.
There's a sculpture of Marmaduke and his creator, I think, in the hometown of I think his name is Brad Sanderson or something. Yeah. I don't know. Sometime I ought to do like a little deep dive on the history of Marmaduke, because I feel like no one's done that yet.
Okay. Is Right Geek online again? Saying you were
I hear you both okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on now. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is Tony putting on some of his new armor pieces to help Rhodey fight Thundersword, because he didn't exactly do so well in the whole rescuing Bethany front here. So he was forced to retreat and defeat and move on to the other problem.
I like that both of them failed their mission, by the way. That's a nice touch.
Yeah.
they seem to be failing an awful lot in these comics. Like it seems like every other,
when they are,
they screw up.
Go ahead.
Was that was that like anti-comic code, or was that allowed at the time? Like
it's almost like the author is trying to say something about how.
I think there were some comic code regulations on good triumphing over evil.
Hello. Okay, we just went full rush on.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I can hear right, Geek.
Yeah, we're sorry.
I can hear you both.
Again. Hello?
Okay.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Comrade.
I was saying it's almost like the writer wants to make the point that they do better when they are together in their proper identities than when they're trying to be things that they are not separately.
One more comment on Punchy's comics code question. I think by the 80s, the comics code had kind of become a joke where it still existed, but people were breaking, because it was a voluntary thing, you could break the comics code all the time, right?
Yeah, okay. Makes sense.
So this is Tony giving Rhodey an extra energy boost. So this is them working together.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, do you have many of the panels of Thundersword doing his character development and villain speeches and things?
Oh yeah, he's great because he's like a TV writer who's completely egomaniacal, and he creates his powers by writing the character in his head. So he just gets the idea that he'll rewrite the character of Thundersword without his weakness. So he gave himself a weakness because he was a good writer. Then it finally occurred to him in jail, oh, I should take away my weakness.
Yeah, I really liked him. It looks like, this is the end of the fight here, right?
I did not get pictures of that, but
okay, R.I.P. Thundersword, but just take my word for it, he's great. He's probably my favorite one-off villain from this entire run.
I used to ride on planes. They were so banal, filled with people who did not understand my genius. I will take revenge on that plane.
Yeah, there's that that panel, the system from which I now liberate myself, was really great. And he's in black and gold too, so I've been meaning to use that as like a libertarian avatar or something.
Well, is he a libertarian or is he a coastal elite? Hollywood type.
I don't think he's actually libertarian. I think he himself is just like a California Hollywood guy. But you can co-opt and you can subvert and you can culture jam with that stuff.
Right.
And
stealing culture.
Yeah. He steals Boromir, right? To mention something else.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings.
Okay. What I love about that is that's just the writer of this comic living by. I would sure love to do a Lord of the Rings reference. I know. I'll have the writer character do a Lord of the Rings reference, so it doesn't count.
Yeah, that's kind of like a lot of the things that he says. I'm wondering if the writer himself is just kind of like, oh god, I want to kind of just like riffing on himself at the same time as he's riffing on the bad guy or something.
Such an absurd line of dialogue, Ironman. I would never write such an absurd line.
Yeah, well, because The Simpsons does that too a lot. They'll have little bits where they have characters who are writing for animated shows, like the Itchy and Scratchy writers, and they'll always have them making these weird, snarky comments that they could never get away with in real life, but they do it by proxy, through vicariously through the characters that they're writing. So.
The other one I love is Simpsons making fun of Fox.
Yeah, they do that stuff too, like all
Yeah.
this kind of meta stuff. Like, hey, I'm a writer, and now I get to write about a writer, so now I can say the stuff I wish I could say to my boss.
I wanted to say something because this reminded me of another weakness of the modern writers is well, we kind of glossed over it when we said that they don't really know comics very well. I think they're just not well read in general. One of the things I notice about the creators of the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even 90s is that they have a lot of knowledge of literature, of mythology, and of current day fantasy literature and science fiction literature, and that's all being reflected in these comics, right? Whereas today, I think it was Warzord who said all they know is Harry Potter and Steven Universe. They're not well read. They're not real well versed in popular culture in general. So they only have one or two wells from which to draw cultural references that they can use in their works. Whereas the older creators had a lot more that they could use, that they could draw on.
Yeah, Denny's riffing on everything from J.R.R. Tolkien to, I don't know, like TV shows and baseball players of the era. So it's kind of a product of the 80s, and it's called like of weird sources mixed together. I also think maybe there's a little. I felt like there was a little sort of self-referential, or more like homages to Jack Kirby in some of the art for these issues. Like there are some more weird cosmic things. There are more weird giant machines in these. So I think they're also starting to kind of like consciously draw ideas from Kirby and remix those. Let's have lots of cool meta crazy universes. Let's have lots of crazy cool machines.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So was that just like what was there some deliberate reference specifically to Kirby, or was that just
not anything too specific? More I'm speaking more generally. Like Kirby was absolutely famous for doing weird, like psychedelic universes and for having gigantic machines. He's obviously massive. I'm sure all of these guys probably met and knew Kirby, right? I just noticed it more in these issues for some reason, that we started having a lot more psychedelic sequences. So I'm sure Kirby was at the back of the mind of the artist in designing those kinds of moments.
Yeah, I was thinking that it's just it's building up to the climax, wasn't it? So they're going to have crazier things as we get closer and closer to the climax, because it's like, oh wow, this is going really nuts now. And speaking of going really nuts, second to last panel there on the screen.
And that we'll probably hear from him again. That's another day's worry, though. Today we won, right?
No, below that. Sorry. When you see it, you'll never mind.
Wait, any luck? Zero. He vanished. That means he's alive.
No, Ironman, second to last panel.
He went into the drink just about here.
Not the lettering, his head.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, you smart aleck. It's water.
It's water. Okay.
Very suspicious water.
I was like, what? What is he talking about? Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe that one was just.
I was going to say that it doesn't have to be a conscious homage to Kirby. I think it's just that everyone was so. Okay. All right. Now we're getting into the backstory here. But I wanted to say, as far as the Kirby-esque artwork goes, I don't think it necessarily has to be a conscious homage. I think it's just what you were saying. These guys just knew Kirby and respected his work. So I think a lot of them were just unconsciously inspired. It doesn't necessarily have to be, I want to replicate what Kirby does. So
totally fair.
Yes. Yeah. But now we get to in my picture set, Obadiah Stane's backstory, which has zero chill at all. So let's talk about this.
Yeah, should we give some trigger
as soon
warnings?
as it resolves itself.
Should we give some like literal trigger warnings in some cases?
Trigger warnings for messed up childhoods. Yeah.
Well, because can I just say, like, I don't really want to get into
For what
this,
exactly? Animal abuse? Or...
Yeah, well, because I know Marmaduke, you are a fan.
Oh yeah, it broke my heart. Yeah.
Yeah, because I refused to watch JoJo after that one particular scene. So after this, I was like, okay, yeah, get rid of Obadiah Stane. But yeah, so trigger warning for JoJo content coming up.
Trigger warning for a kid who's a psychopath. How about that?
So his father kind of has like this fatalist idea of probability and chance, except that he doesn't think of it that was a loser, right? Like my luck's
right,
turning,
kid. Guys hear me?
I'm the luckiest man on earth. I hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you, right, Geek. Marmaduke, you were breaking up and you were actually speaking while you were muted for some reason, which was kind of strange.
That's odd. Okay, let me try it one more time. Can you guys? I can hear Right Geek. I can hear Punchy. Am I breaking up?
No. Marmaduke is good, right, Geek? I heard you. I'm not hearing anything.
I heard you, Punchy.
Yeah. I think
hello.
Maybe there might be a delay. There might be a delay, so maybe our words are coming over like a few seconds after we say them.
Yeah, we might have lost Right Geek, unfortunately.
No. All right.
She occasionally breaking in with like a hello, but then disappearing again.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so she's loading the next page. All right. So I thought it was kind of interesting how the dad has this fatalist view of the world, but he's like a low class bum. So he kind of has like his dumb, working class way of saying it. I lost. The dice were friendly to me today. My luck's really turning around, kid. I'm going to send you to a school with nuns.
Yeah, well, he's a degenerate gambler, isn't he? Like he is the gambling addict, whereas Tony is the alcohol addict. And one thing. I mean, I don't want to go too far into chess autism, but this whole section was what convinced me. This one and the following and the panels on the following page are what absolutely convinced me that Denny is indeed taking this whole chess thing really seriously, right? Like I can absolutely guarantee that Denny was a chess nerd and he knew what he was talking about. And the reason why are either of you chess nerds, or do you know chess nerds or anything?
I know a little bit about chess. Like I think he makes a reference to a real defense that exists when he's talking about the kid who beat him in chess club. Yeah.
The next one, he references a real opening move that's it's famous, but it's not like super famous. It's not one of those things that like you Google up chess openings and it's like a top hit, right?
It's not Bobby Fischer's opening. Yeah.
No, I mean, well, I think he's used it, but it's one of those things that like if you know chess, you'll know about it, but you won't know about it if you're just a filthy casual googling it up. But the other interesting thing is with this backstory of how Obadiah Stane's father was a degenerate gambler and wound up killing himself in a game of chance, right? By using Russian roulette, which we disavow because it's Russian. Now, one of the things that you'll find quite often from chess nerds is that they're very proud of this idea that chess is not a random game, right? Now there are other games out there that don't involve random chess, things like Go and checkers. But chess nerds tend to be really inordinately proud of the fact that there's no random elements to chess. It's all pure strategy, right?
Right, because if there's a random element, then there's an unfairness where the smartest guy doesn't necessarily win.
Yeah,
the kids might win at Monopoly or something. Yeah,
because you've got like a bad dice roll in Dungeons and Dragons, or you draw the bad card in your hand in poker or something, right? And then you've lost the game. But with chess, it's the complete opposite of the gambler's game. It is the game that has absolutely no gambling, absolutely no chance element at all in it. So I thought that was rather interesting, rather poignant how, Obadiah Stane, he lost his father in a very traumatic way to a degenerate gambling addiction that ended in a violent, high stakes gambling game. And then he rejects it utterly by going to the one game that's, as far away from Russian roulette as you could possibly get.
Control. Yeah. He didn't have control as a child, so he's picked a game that gives him control. Yeah.
Gets rid of all the random elements. He's the master of control. And the thing is, like, Denny doesn't beat you over the head with it either, right? Like, he doesn't sit you down and be like, oh yeah, I got to spell all this out, blah 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 blah. He just presents it and assumes that you're smart enough to catch up on this stuff. So it's it was a really good backstory. Like, it only lasts like 2 pages, I think, but like 2.5 maybe. But it tells you everything.
Now the tragic dog incident. It's like Calvin's noodle incident. Stane's tragic dog incident. Stane quickly recognizes that he's not the best at chess, and so he starts using psychological warfare. So he uses psychological warfare to win chess. So an element of his game with Tony was psychological warfare on Tony and playing unfairly.
Yeah, R.I.P. Ruffers. He was a good boy. I mean, I assume he was a good boy. He might have been a jerk.
Yeah,
but
that was surprisingly messed up. Like, even like the element of putting it in the kid's locker to really mess up the. He was better at chess than me. I'm gonna traumatize him for life.
Yeah, well, that was another thing that I was wondering, like, the comics code, like, is that a violation of the comics code? Because that seems more like one of those things that would show up in like a 1942, detective story or, zombie story or something.
I just don't think they cared at this point. It was like, who cares if we violate the comics code or not? Let's see how close we can get to violating the comics code.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
I guess Right Geek is now like operating the slideshow. Right Geek, have you tried to like interject back in, or are you just like not able to come through?
I don't know. Can you hear me right now?
Okay,
I can hear you.
Hello, welcome back.
I was having some internet instability, so I was staying silent and operating the slideshow while that worked itself out. So
all right. Wait long enough and the internet gremlins calm down.
Yeah, so this is the dog incident they're talking about. However, there was a child better at chess than I, Bernie Devlin. In the penultimate match of a school tournament, he bested me with a variation of the Nimzo Indian defense. We had 1 game left to play. The winner would be school champion. Later, I saw him playing with his pet, a dog called Ruffer. Poor Ruffer. I remembered my father. I determined not to be a loser. That night, I paid Ruffer a visit. And the next day, I watched Bernie Devlin open his locker. I knew a surprise awaited him. Ruffer, whose throat I had slit. Bernie was quite upset. Indeed, so upset that he could not concentrate during our next game. I won easily, as I knew I would. So, this is what I mean when I say there's no chill at all in this backstory. Although there is a lot of...
One question I had was,
There's
at
a lot.
what point does he go bald? Because he wasn't bald when his father shot himself, but he is bald by the time
He
he's
said
doing
he said the psychologist said he went bald as a result of the trauma of seeing his father die. So it was in between those two cutscenes, he goes prematurely bald. Yeah.
Yeah.
So baldness is basically it's a sign of evil. Then I guess.
Well, it's like Charlie Brown. If Charlie Brown is depressed enough, all his hair falls out or never comes in the first place. Yeah.
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 It's a sign of a troubled mind.
Right. Yeah, so we have Stane the psychopath deciding to win a chess tournament by psychologically manipulating this kid by killing his dog. That's nice. Like I said, this has no chill at all. In your case, it is no exaggeration to say that the child is the father to the man. I use much the same method against Tony Stark as I used against Bernie Devlin. Find the opponent's weakness and exploit it. Stark is an alcoholic. My task was easy. So we have a lot of the this is basically the gloating villain monologue before he loses, you know. And it's very well.
And Madame
done.
Mask is totally into it. She loves her some psychopaths.
Yeah, she really does.
So is that best girl or worst girl?
Evil waifu. Yeah, that's Yandere.
Yeah, which
Yandere. All right,
I like seeing the hint of alcohol. Yep, I can hear you. I like seeing the hint of Tony's ongoing struggle with alcoholism right before the climactic battle. We have one more reminder of where he came from.
Right. Yep. When I sobered up, I'd wish I were dead. And if I didn't sober up, I would be dead. Breathing maybe, but dead. Yeah.
Dumb.
Meanwhile,
that's a good line.
You claim to have beaten Stark. Yeah. You claim to have beaten Stark. Have you also beaten Iron Man? I suppose I mustn't I? He has become an annoyance. I was certain that once Stark was vanquished, Iron Man would cease to be a factor. Then you know that Tony Stark is Iron Man? I guessed he was Iron Man. Now logic indicates that someone else wears the armor.
He gets disturbingly close. You know, if Tony was Iron Man and Tony was drunk, then Iron Man must now be Rhodey or one of the Morley siblings. You know, he is using
right. Yeah,
it's pretty obvious who it is. I mean, it's
yeah. Here's Stane saying, "Working at employment that was beneath me." Hi, I'm not going to be a wage cuck. I soon realized that my boss was a blithering incompetent, but he was the incompetent who owned the company. I determined to remedy that. He had many weaknesses, but the primary one was his insane infatuation with a wife who was 20 years his junior. I gave him a packet of photographs, pictures that seemed to be of his wife and his best friend. I watched him crumble in front of me, and I knew that within a month I would be sitting at his desk. The photographs are faked, of course.
Elite Photoshop skills.
Yeah, I mean that was really good Photoshop skills too, especially back in those days because you didn't even have Photoshop.
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
what that was even before MS Paint, right? What was the big art software back in like 19?
Boy, it would have had to have been like cutting them up with scissors in a like red lit photography room, I would guess.
Taking negatives and sticking them together, stitching them together or something.
Add a little grain arbitrarily.
This was only 84, 85, so pretty much, yeah. I began to sell munitions to whichever buyer. Yeah, I began to sell munitions to whichever buyer offered the best price for them. Several very stern rulers would have been deposed years ago without my aid to them. So here's an arms deal. Here's a weapons dealer to bad guys across the world. Next, I combine my love of games, specifically my love of chess, with my need for personal bodyguards and created my living chessmen. It was them that first brought me into conflict with Ironman. Meanwhile, so basically this whole issue is Dane's backstory interleaved with what's going on with Tony. Rhodey, I'm telling you again, I don't want the summer. I don't want to be Iron Man anymore. You're beginning to sound like a broken record, you know that? Listen, Bethany's in the hands of the bad guys and she needs rescuing. You'll have to do it. The only armor I'm willing to wear isn't up to it. But this thing I used to wear is part of the life I want to forget. So he's still resisting. And this is one of Stane's weapons coming at them. So we're building up to the to what happens to Circuits Maximus here.
Right. He attacks
Tony.
Circuits Maximus with a giant flying tank before he gets the idea to just commit an act of terrorism for his second attempt.
Yeah. So this is Tony and Rhodey working together. What we're doing here is we're trying to build up to that moment of crisis in which Tony finally has to make his decision to don his armor again and actually be Iron Man again, right? Yeah, so here's Stane drugging Madame Mask here. So we can do the mind swap. Here's Tony still resisting. You'll never catch me in armor again. Yeah, here's the brain swapped Bethany. Let's see.
A great drawing, the last panel that you showed. I really liked his laugh there.
Manic laughter, yeah. We're having fun.
There's a lot of great close-ups and great shots in these last several issues.
Yeah. All right, so this is where Stane starts kidnapping other people who have been associated with Tony, including Mrs. Arbogast.
Who is now a bombshell, apparently.
Yeah, they forgot to draw her as a dumpy middle-aged woman for one panel. As soon as she retired, she took up. She started taking up like a diet and aerobics fitness. Looks 20 years younger now.
Yeah, there was actually a couple panels where that happened. I think I'll have to go back and check. Which episode was that she got issue that she got kidnapped, or was that like?
I think it was like an incidental scene. I think it's this. I don't think he started kidnapping people. He kidnapped Bethany, but I think he started kidnapping everybody else this issue.
197 or 198.
Yeah,
197 or 198, because that's the 197, 198, 199, 200, where it really starts ramping up to the climax.
Yeah, it's probably 197 because Bethany was already kidnapped and ready to be brain swapped. So
yeah.
I don't know. I could look around at some later point because nobody on the stream will be able to see it anyways, even if I find it. But yeah, she is now young and turned into a waifu. For
Mr. Arbogast must be thrilled. A very happy man is Mr. Arbogast.
You need a no prize for this one. Anyone have a no prize? Jazzercise.
My only no prize is the stress. She must have been eating to cope with the stress of working for Tony Stark. And as soon as she stopped working for Tony Stark, she started feeling and looking years younger. He's a hard boss.
Warzord's no prize is Jazzercise. So, that could work too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would just say it's more evidence of the male gaze and the tyranny of patriarchal oppression creeping into the storyline. But
yeah, so Stane has now realized that Tony is not crushed. So now he's going to try again by collecting all of Stane's old acquaintances. I failed to completely crush Stark when we first played against one another. I will not fail again. Oh, yes, you will, you asshole. Anyway,
spoiler warnings, come on.
You're invested. You're actually you really want the good guy to beat the bad guy. I wonder if the good guy will beat the bad guy. Let's find out.
Oh, there we go. Right in the middle there.
Yeah.
This is the climax of the
this is Pepper. This is Pepper being kidnapped.
So it wasn't Bethany. It was Pepper that was, Pepper.
Remember Pepper?
The other redhead, yeah.
Comic in a long time. Yeah.
I remember Pepper. I mean, she does pretty well for herself too. I mean, I guess she wasn't like beating up ninjas as badly as Bethany was, but she does still hold her own. So.
A really nice detail is that Rhodey doesn't know Pepper. And Pepper immediately notices and says, "You remember me?" So that was just a nice little subtle thing that happened. And then like having her kill. And Rhodey as a cool older black guy taking care of the kids and telling them, "Don't worry, kids. I'm gonna get your mom back. You cool? Yeah, we're cool." Friendly neighborhood Iron Man stuff.
Yeah. Well, do you have the wisecracks?
Here's Happy. They're going after Happy also.
Right, Keith. With the burning restaurant, do you have the wisecracks that he was making? Because that seemed kind of inappropriate when they were about to burn to death, making jokes about it.
Well, that's just him making jokes to what do you call it? Compensate for the fear and trauma of the moment, right?
I guess so. I mean, I don't know if I'd appreciate having jokes about me burning to death while I'm burning to death. But that is right. So
we're catching up with Happy here too.
Yeah, what was it? When you folks have a hot meal, you have a hot meal, and they're like physically falling off the building as he's saying that. Hasn't even got to them yet. Or saying
well, but see, this is pre-Civil War, right? So we have absolute confidence that the hero is going to save everybody's life in this situation.
I guess so. It just seems really, really kind of mean, given the fact that it's so premature. But I mean, not that I mind mean, right?
Do they even hear it? Do the characters hear the jokes, or are the jokes only for our benefit?
I don't know. It's we don't have the panel, but he's kind of close to. Kind of close. He's like maybe like 40 feet away, 30 feet away from the people burning to death as the building collapses.
I'm surprised he didn't make a crack about being their waiter today. Right, because he's literally got to like balance the whole restaurant like a waiter balancing a tray. So.
Yeah. Well, when we remake it, we can hash out what his joke should be.
But Punchy doesn't want him making jokes in that situation. I just want him making better jokes in that situation.
I'm fine with him making jokes, but that's because I'm an asshole. I'm just pointing out that he's being a jerk at the time. It seems uncharacteristically cruel and mean of him to be cracking jokes when there are people burning to death and falling, and he hasn't actually saved them at that point. But I'm fine with that because
Oh, by the way, now here's remember that baby from issue 182?
Yep.
The writer remembers that baby from issue 182. Yeah.
Well, one writer does.
Dum, dum, dum. The writer remembers. One writer does. No other writer does. Yeah, actually, I did mention on Twitter that one thing that really bothered me is once Denny O'Neill's run was over, this baby basically disappears and nobody ever deals with that again. And that bothers me because, Tony wouldn't just abandon somebody like that.
That's an edit. That's like an editor job. The editor has to pay attention to who the babies are.
Like that to this kid. I'm gonna fix that. I'm gonna fix that in my fan comic somehow. I don't know exactly how, but I'm going to.
Yeah, actually, well,
it's a plot hole that really.
Yeah, I guess this is going to be another like deep lore, like Marvel deep lore question. But like for example, I know with Star Wars, right? There was a guy whose full-time job it was to keep track of Star Wars canon and categorize Star Wars canon and all the Star Wars facts, right? I forget what his name was, but it was this really autistic job that they had.
Yeah, the really autistic guy. That's what they mean.
Does Marvel have that? Like, do they have?
Can you imagine? Okay, can you imagine that's your job and you don't even like Star Wars, right? You just happen to work for the publishing industry. Yeah. Oh gosh, I got to keep track of all this.
Yeah, well, he was he was with Lucasfilms. I think he got canned when Disney bought it because that's one of the reasons why Disney destroyed the extended universe because they didn't want to be bothered with it all. But I guess my question is, do they have that at Marvel or DC or something like? Is there a lore keeper who keeps all?
Editors are supposed to keep abreast of that, and so it depends on the quality of the editor. If the editor's not paying attention to that stuff, the writers could be just completely clueless and not have any familiarity with what's going on. What's going on?
It's just left to individual editors then. Like there's not a guy whose full-time job it is literally just to take every factoid and categorize it.
Well, I think now the Wikipedias have taken over that job. You just, who is this character? Oh, thank goodness for fan wikis of Marvel characters, or who would know who all these people are.
So like all the current year writers are just like looking up the Marvel wiki and like, oh god, I got to write about this 2 young men guy. Okay, click. Furry avatar.
But the problem with that is the problem with the wiki is that it gives you the basic facts, but not a whole lot of the depth. So you can always tell when a writer has relied on the wiki instead of actual personal knowledge of the character because it comes off as very shallow,
You mean Wikipedia isn't a good source of information for writing my book report?
Marmaduke, I checked Wikipedia's page on the reliability of Wikipedia, and according to Wikipedia is very reliable. So
and they want me to donate so that they have a giant photo of the creator of Wikipedia begging me to donate to Wikipedia every time I go there. Yeah, so it must be good.
They just watch Comic Historian, yeah, probably. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe they just need to get take a cue from George Lucas and just hire one guy who's locked in a room all day long and his entire job is just to be the keeper of the law, and everything has to go through him and he has to vet it and just be like, okay, okay, that works with the law, no, that's inconsistent with the law, blah 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 blah. Right.
There's a science fiction author I know by the name of David Weber. He is the guy that does the Honor Harrington universe. And he actually has recruited autistic people to keep his lore. There's a whole, it's called, I think it's called Boo 9. That's what he calls it. And that's the people that keep track of all the technological specs on all of his ships and weapons and stuff like that. And they keep track of all the history and lore. So anytime he's writing one of his books and he needs to check to see what exactly he established, he just calls up Boo 9 and be like, what exactly did I establish here? I think everyone that has large, expansive, continuing universes like that needs some autist in the wings keeping track of all the details.
I wonder how George.
The
I wonder how
Lord
George.
Gimp, yeah.
I've given up on George Martin, but I think he. Once you get to a certain level of popularity, yeah, you outsource the work to the internet, and then you can just make stuff up and let the nerds figure it out.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lord
okay.
Gimp.
Yeah.
All right, I found him. His name's Leyland Chi. Born March 1st, 1971. He was a Lucasfilm employee. His official title was Keeper of the Holocron. So yeah, he was the nerd that was in charge of all the Star Wars canon from the extended universe clear up until it got bought by Disney. So I'm not sure what he's doing now. But before Disney bought it, there was a turbo nerd who managed all of that all by himself. So there you go.
Yeah.
Leyland Chi, everyone.
Every company needs they need to go back to hiring turbo nerds to keep track of everything. For sure.
That's got to be the worst job ever to lose, because nothing you learned is relevant to anything else after that.
Yeah, it's like, well, I know how to categorize levels of Star Wars canon.
Yeah. All right. So speaking of,
Actually, he also maintains the Indicron continuity database for Indiana Jones, the Indiana Jones universe. So that's probably a lot smaller because it wasn't as much.
So probably the techniques of maintaining lore, those can apply to different franchises, but the lore itself is always franchise specific. Yeah. I have a system.
Yeah, so actually, you know what? Maybe that is good though. Maybe Marvel can. I mean, Leyland Chi, if you happen to be watching this, please go contact Marvel and offer your services as head turbo nerd for canon and continuity. You can thank me
Ed
later.
Piscor is probably the number one candidate for Marvel continuity nerd at this point after writing X-Men Grand Design. Like, that was ridiculous. Like, he read, I thought, okay, he's just going to summarize all of X-Men. And he summarized all of the Marvel universe and the X-Men's place in the Marvel universe. What a nerd. I love Ed Piscor.
That's pretty good. Yeah, team him up with Leyland, and we can make this work. This could be our key to revamping Marvel in current year.
What a nerd.
Right, well, anyways, with that said, let's get to everyone blowing up.
Yeah, because you mentioned earlier that Stane attacks Circus Maximus with that giant robot, and then he decides to be a little more subtle and do straight up male terrorism.
Where Lex Luthor techniques fail, Al Qaeda techniques succeed. Yeah.
Will succeed. Yeah.
There's a pretty good fake out where you don't know who the dead one is. You rule out. You see a picture of Clytemnestra, so you know she's okay. So you don't know if it's Rhodey or Morley who's dead.
Well, I mean, you don't know, but you know.
You guess.
Because, I mean, it is like 30 years later. Well,
yeah.
Can I just say that I was very upset with the way that they depicted the car rolling over. There is a gross glaring continuity error where the car is on the wrong after it flips over. I was very upset by that. It's clearly shown rolling to one side, and then in the very next panel, it's showed on the complete opposite side. I guess the stream's been blown up too.
Google screwed us over again.
Yeah. Maybe.
How do you guys feel about Morley being stuck in the refrigerator? Because I'm kind of on the fence about it. On the one hand, it motivates Iron Man to go take out Stane. it cynically feels like Morley was the character the writer didn't know what to do anything with, so the writer just figured, might as well kill him off, right, rather than find a way to use Morley. And he also kind of like head faked us by giving Morley a girlfriend right before this happened. So you thought, oh, that's cool, Morley's got a girlfriend. There's going to be some romantic waifu stuff. Like, do you support killing Morley, or do you think Morley should have gotten a reprieve?
Well, for me, like we went over this off stream, I think. But yeah, I mean, I've never really been too worried about waifus, or I guess in this case, husbandos in refrigerators. But yeah, they definitely Morley was kind of extraneous at this point, right? Because Cly, like at the beginning of this run, right? You know, Morley was the stand-in Tony, right? He was the engineer, science geek who could come in and help everyone with the Ironman suits and blah 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 blah. And then you got his sister, who was kind of the same thing, but she was also cute and she was a waifu. But they could kind of play off each other and build each other up as Rhodey's new sidekicks. But at this point, right, with Tony back, you know, Tony's now the big science engineer guy who knows how to do everything with the armor. And I mean, Cly is still the kind of cute waifu. But Morley, you know, he's not a cute waifu and he's not as smart as Tony, so he's got nothing else to do. So yeah, screw it. You know, you might as well be the one to die. I mean, with that in mind,
you're totally for killing off unneeded fictional characters.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically the one that you don't need, so he's the one you're gonna kill. And with that in mind, like I'd say, yeah, I'd probably want to kill off somebody other than Morley, just to mix it up a bit and make it a bit more exciting. Because at this point, not that I like Morley dying, but it's kind of like, oh yeah, that guy. I remember him. He was in it like 5 issues ago, I think. But I don't want to say that Cly should have died or anything, because that would have been horrible. But it might have had more impact if they had have picked somebody else, or at least had more given Morley more to do before he gets blown up.
I'm also surprised they didn't go with the angle of like, oh, he's in the hospital in critical condition, he may not make it, right? To give the writer time to decide whether he is going to kill off Morley or not, right? Because that would still motivate Iron Man to go kick Stane's butt.
Yeah, well, I mean, here,
go ahead.
I think that's kind of what they're doing here in the final panel, because you don't know that he's actually completely blown up at this. Like, you're assuming that he's completely blown up, but it could just be that he's really messed up, and maybe he's going to come back to life or something. But I don't know. You never know. What do you think, Frankie? Were you okay with Morley getting put in a refrigerator, or?
To be honest, yeah, because I do think that he was kind of an extraneous character by this point, as you described, Punch. And I don't think that it was done out of a cynical, I don't know what to do with this character, so he dies. Because I don't think that that's how Denny O'Neil has been playing this. I think that this entire storyline was planned from the very beginning, right? Just based on how much detail and how much thought and how much depth has been put into this. I don't think that Denny O'Neil would be the type of writer to just say, I don't know what to do with this character, lose him. I don't think that cynicism comes into play. I think he just had already planned. I think he had planned from the beginning that Morley was going to die, that he was a doomed character, because that seems like the kind of writer that he is. Yeah.
I mean, maybe I wasn't. I mean, I'm not saying that Denny's a hack or anything. I just think that the way, like at this point in the storyline, right, I would have liked to have seen a character with a bit more stakes get taken out, right, or at least give Morley a bit more to do in the storyline immediately leading up to this. again, it just felt like, I mean, he was the one that they were going to take out because he didn't have much to do, but it would have had more impact if he had more to do. Or if I
think that's why they gave him a girlfriend immediately before this happened, right? To remind you that Morley exists
so quickly before, right?
Yeah,
like it's almost like an afterthought, but it's one of these very special episodes.
But then
in this case, it's a very special episode where Morley blows up.
And clearly blows up in a way where his body's horribly disfigured.
Yeah. Okay. One thing you want to ask a question about, though, is giving Morley to do means sacrificing pages that were devoted to Tony's journey and Rhodey's journey, which are clearly more important to the story. So unfortunately, although it would have been nice for Morley to have more to do, the problem is you only have 22 pages an issue in which to accomplish things. You don't have a lot of real estate. So you got to dedicate your real estate to the stuff that is really, really important.
Actually, okay, this is kind of an autistic question, but have they ever had, like, I guess specifically Iron Man, but any kind of Marvel DC superhero, have they ever had like whole issues and runs where they ignored the superhero and just had like some weird secondary character be the entire focus?
There will very rarely be issues where they take a break and have like a filler arc.
Can you think of any like prominent examples? I guess would be the question, because I know like with Doctor Who, right? Like the Doctor Who TV show, there are some like really famous, really prominent examples of exactly that happening. Like the Doctor Who doesn't show up for more than like 5 seconds in the entire episode, and everything else is just like some random side character that they build up and then
I don't think I can actually think of an example off the top of my head, and I think it's because they sort of like, as a business model, if the character was on the cover of the comic book, they had an expectation that the character had to be prominently featured in that book. Like maybe they do a thing where it's like, in this issue we won't use any dialogue at all. They would call it "Nuff said" because that was like a line Stan Lee used to use. I feel like their more common way of doing it was they would have the B plot be related to the secondary characters and the A plot be related to, Spider-Man's shenanigans. So you'd end up having the B plots built up over years and years of time, right? There would be a lot of pages devoted to it in the long run, but it would never be the front and center a plot of any given storyline.
Okay.
I was going to say sometimes I feel like Can't Write Well's run is that, where we had that entire issue that was just focused on Patsy, for example.
Okay. Well, I mean,
that entire issue.
I guess I should say, has like that Doctor Who approach ever been done well in a prominent Iron Man issue? But I guess that's a fair point. Yeah. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's not so much Steven Universe. Maybe it's that all the nerds watch Doctor Who nowadays, and they're trying to make it Doctor Who.
Well, one of the things is that a lot of the modern writers don't really know how to use their real estate. As we're discussing real estate here, and they have a tendency to be, some other guys on YouTube have called it writing for the trades. They instead of having nice compact stories in every issue so that every issue can stand on its own while also building up longer term plots, everyone is writing with the idea that story is over when we get to the end of the 5-issue book that we're going to put out after the 5 issues have passed, right? So everything is everything is very, very stretched out to an extent that you sometimes end up with an entire issue devoted to, say, Korvac's backstory, because rather than having that exposition kind of be sprinkled in here and there throughout the issues as other things were going on, oh, we got to load it into this one issue, because we're not thinking in terms of one issue has to be able to stand on its own, just in case somebody's coming along, this is their first Iron Man comic ever. Everyone is thinking that is thinking we're gonna write for the graphic novel version, basically.
You're like a 10-year-old kid, and your first Iron Man comic is just Morley and Cly sitting around the breakfast table, doing like slice of life stuff.
These days, that would absolutely happen. Yeah. Yeah, Jim Shooter always said a comic could be someone's first. Yeah. And the modern writers kind of lose sight of that. They definitely lose sight of that. So that, like, that's why I don't really read a lot of DC, because honestly, I feel like I'm not going to understand it if I jump into whatever the main continuity comics are, because I just haven't read any of the previous comics. Usually when I read DC, I pick up like the Elseworld stuff, because at least I don't have to know anything from the past 80 years, you know?
Yeah, that's probably a good point. I mean, I'm trying to think of like my first comics from each different comic book hero. And actually, I think with Spider-Man, the very first Spider-Man comic I ever picked up and read was something really weird and bizarre, and it sort of turned me off. It gave me the complete wrong idea of Spider-Man and turned me off it for like decades, I guess.
Was that in the 90s?
Yeah, it was. I'm pretty sure it was in the 90s, because it was my hairdresser guy, the barber shop that had all the comic books, and he had all these like one-off like Iron Man and Fantastic Four and Spider-Man comics, blah 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 blah. And it was some issue where Spider-Man wound up killing a lady by accident, like kind of in the same manner that he killed what's her name, the girlfriend there.
Gwen?
Yeah, but it's like some random lady, like some random civilian lady he kills, and then he winds up killing himself at the same time or something, and then he goes to hell, and then the demon shows up, and then there's some kind of weird like afterlife thing, and then I guess like time gets reversed, or he gets brought back to it's something absolutely bizarre. I had no idea what was going on, and I was like, is this like Spider-Man? Like, it's all people screwing up as a hero and dying, and like, oh god, okay.
No offense to anyone who likes comics from the 90s, but the 90s got a little bit strange.
Yeah. Yeah, it did.
Clone Saga, yeah.
They especially did in the Iron Man comics. Like, the Iron Man comics from the 90s, especially around like 95, 96, got very, very bizarre and kind of trashy. I don't really like 90s Iron Man very much. Up until you get into
do you happen to remember any of like the major storylines or anything? Like, could you give like a 30-second summary of or anything of any of them, or are they just too bad?
Okay. Well, the one that leaps to my mind immediately, and I think I mentioned it in the post show last time, was The Crossing, which the Warzard is pointing it out exactly. Yeah. So basically in The Crossing, what happens is that Kang mind controls Tony. Tony ends up killing a couple of people, and then ends up dying, and replaced by a kid version of himself.
Okay, so like exactly like the Spider-Man.
So the last, so after like 313, after issue number 313, at that tail end of volume 1, right around 1995-96, that's when that was going on, and those last issues of volume 1 were Kid Iron Man. And that is, epic levels of cringe that have only been surpassed by today's Iron Man comics. Before today's Iron Man comics, those were in fact the worst Iron Man comics as far as I was concerned. So
that was going to be my next question. Is it were 90s Iron Man comics worse than or as bad as or better than current year Iron Man comics? In your professional opinion?
90s Iron Man is slightly better, I think, now. But
Yes.
ask me on another day and I might change ask me on another day and I might change my mind. I don't know. They're very, very close. It's like it's a tight horse race to the bottom there. So
did he have a lot of pockets in the 90s? I guess that would be my question. Because that's how I measure 90s comics, by the number of pockets, how good they are.
I don't really remember pockets.
Never mind. That's
more of a Deadpool thing.
Yeah, that's more of a Liefeld joke. That might have gone over people's heads. But
I don't remember pockets. I do remember armor designs that I wasn't particularly fond of.
Yeah,
and I remember Kid Iron Man.
That was the big thing with Rob Liefeld in the 90s. His armor designs always had pockets in them. And one of the things was like hipster comic book nerds in the 2000s and 2010s was being like, oh, there's too many pockets and everything and blah 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 blah. You know, I don't know. Never mind.
I remember Deadpool has even made fun of that. Yeah.
Heroes Reborn. Iron Man.
So Warsa's question: what did you think of Heroes Reborn Iron Man? I didn't like it that much. It didn't feel like real toning to me. I pretty much, when it comes to selecting which comics I actually count as canon, personally, I basically Elide, The Crossing, and Heroes Reborn Iron Man, and pretty much anything from Kieran Gillen onward, basically are not canon in my universe. So. To answer your question, I didn't like it. Yeah. To answer your question, I didn't like it. I thought it was pretty trashy too. Most of the 90s stuff was pretty trashy in my opinion. It didn't really come back until Volume 3 with Kurt Busiek. Then it started to be good again. Okay, but anyway, back to the actual topic of this, which is the final confrontation with Obadiah Stane, because we're now at
issue 200.
Yeah, we were staring at Iron Man 200.
Iron Man 200.
Keystone issue, which I also own physically. So
nice.
So there's the cover. Iron Man and the Ironmonger. Okay, the cat is back. That's the same cat.
The right geek and the cat.
All right, so here we go.
The furmonger.
Yeah. Nobody on Earth could survive that bomb blast, Mr. Stark. Your friend is dead. I know. So this is him finally being motivated to take the identity that belongs to him. And I apologies again for all the boomerisms and slow slides.
I like the detail, by the way, that Stane has to have a whole laboratory of people like in a secret underground bunker just to replicate one suit of Iron Man armor, right? So it is a battle of wits between the two of them.
That's
but
something that
the fact
the movies actually picked up on and used. Yeah.
He can try to crush Tony Stark with alcoholism, but he can't actually build the Iron Man armor himself.
Yeah, well, I mean that's how it was in his origin story too, wasn't it? You know, he couldn't beat the other kid.
They picked up on that in the movies, and that's why you have that line. You know, Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not Tony Stark. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why he's got to kill Ruffer and make Tony drink and everything because he's not as smart. And actually,
Yeah.
it's kind of an interesting like triangle there too with Rhodey, right? Because I mean, Rhodey has kind
Rhodey's
of a
been
similar,
injured.
where Rhodey's not as smart as Tony Stark, and Rhodey's kind of second fiddle as well. But in Rhodey's case, he doesn't let that turn into like, oh, I'm going to kill Tony now, or I'm going to make him drink. So could Obadiah Stane have, like, in a different world, could he have become a Rhodey type character? Could he have become like a friend and an ally to?
Don't give them ideas, or they'll just create a multiverse, the Gweniverse, the Staneverse, where every character is Obadiah Stane as every single Marvel superhero for some reason.
Okay, yeah, you're probably right. I disavow.
Well, they only do multiverse stuff with the waifu characters, because with Gwen Stacy, it's like, oh wow, we can see Gwen Stacy as Spider-Man, we can see Gwen Stacy as Deadpool. Well, she's not really Gwen Stacy; she's just named Gwen for some reason. It's to sell the statues and sculptures to nerds.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really follow Spider-Gwen. I know Mrs. Punchy likes Spider-Gwen a lot.
I read it.
So
it's just it was stretched out forever. Like, you'd have to read 26 issues to get any resolution on like the initial plots. They would sometimes have like weird guest artists who were not as good, and I don't feel like she had a very well-defined personality. Like her thing was she was Spider-Man as a girl, and I don't know, maybe that's for another stream, but I enjoyed parts of it. I just feel like they didn't have the editor saying, here's the focus of the series. Here's what we're going to accomplish with this character or with this series.
So do you think Clyde could have worked as Iron Man, right? Like if they redid it as like a Gwen Stacy thing, but instead it's Clyde.
She could work. She's a participant in Tony's lab work. She's got the sexy, I want Tony to be my husbando angle that gives her kind of like a role in the universe. We've seen her be like a tough cookie, right? So if they didn't have anyone who's in Tony's immediate circle is almost a candidate to wear the armor. They almost had Morley wear the armor when Tony was being a sad sack and didn't want to wear the armor, and it was like a moment of desperate need, right? So I feel like just by having these secondary characters there, and we see their personality and we see them contributing, we're kind of waiting for the moment where any of them has to step up and be the hero of the day when Tony's in trouble or Tony's drunk under the table or something. The other thing about Morley's death is that actually kind of like, now Clytemnestra hates Tony, right? So I don't know how this develops in future, but this is kind of taking her out of the picture as well, because she's going to be bitter at Tony and not hanging out with the gang anymore. So
yeah, well, weren't you saying like that she doesn't really show up very much after this, or was that? Is this kind of the end of her story as well?
No, I think there is a follow-up. No, she actually does show up, I believe, if I recall correctly. There is a follow-up to this fact that she hates Tony now.
Okay.
Which is something we can do. We can do that.
Does she turn into
stream?
a villain? Is she now bent on revenge against Iron Man or something?
Yeah, if I recall correctly, yeah, I think she does get mixed up with a group of villains at some point.
Oh, nice. Okay, well, don't tell me.
It's been a while since I've.
If you can figure out which issue it is, just let us know on Twitter where she makes a comeback, and then maybe I'll just watch it on my own, read it on my own. Because that third panel in particular, if it weren't for him, my brother would be alive, right? You can tell. I mean, that would be a great setup for one of these kind of anti-hero villain sort of heel turns. But
drama is on the horizon. Yeah. Also, nice touch that they broke her glasses for this scene to show what a sorry state she's in. Just a visual reminder.
That was bugging me too, because if the glasses were broken by that, she would have had shards of glass in her eyes, and there's clearly no injury there. So blah 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 blah, right? Nitpicking about that. But
she shut her eyes really, really tight.
Yeah, I was like,
maybe it wasn't the explosion that broke the glasses. Maybe she
It's like
scraped
fell
across
off
the
and-
ground. Yeah, so the glass would have flown perpendicular to her face rather than been shot directly into her.
They were already off her face when it blew up or something, when they shattered. I don't know.
Yeah, she picked him up. She picked him up. Yeah.
It's not as bad as the car flipping over
yeah.
onto
Okay,
the
my memory is right. She gets mixed. She gets involved with AIM.
Okay.
Did you hear me?
Yeah.
I heard you. Okay.
Yeah. I looked up the
was-
issues. Her last appearance is in Ironman number 216. So about a year or so after this. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to read that after.
Yeah, so this isn't so as I recalled correctly, this is in fact a setup for a heel turn. So so we have that going on.
Ah, crap. I just pulled up the Marvel. Sorry, I just pulled up the Marvel wiki and I was looking for the issue too. They say the last issue, but they also have some spoilers, so kind of far. Oh, all right. Well, whatever. I'll still check it out. Yeah, because she's really mad right there.
Yeah.
She doesn't like dudes in refrigerators very much.
Yeah. It was Stane.
So do you think this is
okay? This angle I like. She's picking up on. So like Tony's problem has been he's scared to take up the Iron Man armor, and so Clytemnestra's accusation is, well, if you could have prevented this. If I remember correctly, I thought there was something at the start of this where he kind of like warned them that, you know, Stane could come after me. Are you sure you guys, right? So I feel like he gave them warning that they were potentially mixing themselves up in danger when they joined with him.
Yeah, well, I mean,
it feels like Tony could have stopped this if he finished his giant Iron Man armor suit and went and just kicked Stane's butt, you know, a few months ago. On the other hand, it feels like they all kind of knew they were signing up for danger when they started working with Iron Man, and they knew that this powerful psychopath hated his guts. So I don't know. She has justification. It's justifiable to be angry about your brother's death. I just feel like Stane's the one she should be coming up with evil plans to murder, if anyone. And maybe there's a thing where it's like she used to be in love with him, but now she feels betrayed. So, you know, hell hath no fury, like a woman scorned kind of thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. I mean, it's pretty obvious that they were in danger the whole time. It's not like this is going to be news to any of them. And I mean, I can get where she's coming from, right? Like from her perspective, it seems reasonable to lash out at Tony. You know, I think Tony's been doing the best he can. You know, and it is a team effort, so kind of pinning all the blame on Tony is a bit jerky. But she does have a fair point. Like if he just threw on the Iron Man armor, like he's known where Stane is, like all along. Like Stane's not hiding in some, you know, secret volcano lair in the middle of Antarctica or anything, right? You know, he's at Stane Industries, and you know, if Tony had decided, yeah, hey, I'm gonna stick on the Iron Man suit, you know, let's go punch him in the face. He could have gone and punched him in the face in like, you know, half hour. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think, right, Geek? Do you think she's justified in turning on Tony, or?
I think it's understandable that she would turn on Tony like that. But I also feel sympathy for Tony's waffling on this issue because of what has just happened to him, right? That it's going to be sensible well, it's going to make sense for him to be hesitant to return to his old life. That's something that a lot of addicts say, right? I can't go back to my old stomping grounds because that's where I lost the bubble, right?
Yeah.
So I think it psychologically makes sense that he would waffle and be unsure about that. So I have sympathy for Tony on that score, but I think I also have sympathy for Clyde because her brother is dead because Tony wasn't really put together psychologically. I think I can see both sides in this, which is a sign of good writing. Just FYI.
Yeah, I think Tony is kind of siding with her, ironically enough. I mean, obviously, he's agreeing with what she's saying, and it's this kind of it's the dude in the refrigerator that wakes him up and causes him to get his hero moment. But one thing I was wondering too, is it just me, or does Tony start looking rather simian in these last few pages?
Well, it's a new artist. I think it's Sal Buscema doing these issues, and I think Sal is more of like a Conan the Barbarian, big, strong, square jaw kind of artist. So it immediately everybody gets more buff the second a Buscema brother shows up.
Yeah, that would make sense then, because I was like, I don't know if he's doing that like to accentuate the fact that now he's mad and he's gonna go for revenge or something. Or what? But yeah, Conan the Barbarian artist would make total sense. That would also work.
Yeah. That kind of gives me an opportunity to express my opinions on how I prefer Tony be drawn. Because I don't see him as like a super buff Sal Buscema kind of character. I think that he should be fit, at least when he's not drinking. He should be fit, healthy, taking care of himself, but not built like a linebacker, more built like a baseball player or a marathon runner.
Okay.
That's kind of how I picture him in my head. Like he's fit and he's masculine, but he's not like Captain America. He's a different kind of body structure.
So like swimmer body, Olympic swimmer kind of Tony, rather than
exactly. Yeah,
not Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah,
pro wrestler.
Yeah, toned. Yeah, toned, not a wrestler. Yeah,
not John Cena. Then okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't really picture him as like a John Cena either. Especially like given his personality, and I mean maybe that's just my bias against because you either have to be smart or you've got to be really buff. But then of course you got things like the Thing and Beast from X-Men. But yeah, I'd probably agree. He's better as a bantamweight or something.
Yeah. So here, my friend is dead. Others may have been captured, taken, who knows where, before it got to this point. I could have stopped him before it got to this point, but I didn't. But I will. I'll accept the responsibility that goes with who I am, and I will stop Obadiah Stane. Now you're talking, buddy. I got the armor right here. And still, even here, you keep it. So Tony still doesn't have any problem with Rhodey having armor. But with this busted leg, I won't be able to wear it to help. I appreciate your concern, Rhodey, but I can do this alone. So this is the important emotional moment. I will take the responsibility.
He's kind of looks like Charles Bronson as well. I'm getting like serious Charles Bronson.
Mm-hmm. So this is Stane being really, really confident that Irwin's death will drive Tony back into the bottle.
I like the touch that Bethany's kind of like not literally winking, but sort of nodding at the camera, maybe hinting that I don't know, maybe she's in there somewhere, fighting the mind control. Kind of knows he's setting himself up for a fall.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what was it like?
Here's Tony showing up.
So was it a complete brain swap or what? What? Or is she just like psychologically conditioned, like an MK Ultra kind of thing? Do you know? Or...
I wasn't sure. I know I put two and two together because I saw him like knock out Madam Mask. Reiki, go ahead.
Are you still there, right, Geek? You're muted right now.
Give me 1 second. I'm just my my internet is a little bit unstable again. Hold on 1 second.
Oh, no. Yeah. Obadiah Stane doesn't want us to finish this issue. He's reaching out through time.
Bad guy. Hey, by the way, another simian panel of Tony in the bottom right there. Very brooding, squarish, kind of a little ugly.
Very, very Bronsonian. Like it looks like something from like a Death Wish, like a close up of him right before he shoots a gangster in the foot and then smashes him in the face with a 2x4 with nails in it or something.
Well, Hawkeye kind of deserves it after gaslighting Tony for a few issues.
Yeah, I was okay with it. I was like, yeah, that's out of the way, Hawkeye.
If I remember correctly, the whole reason Hawkeye is in the West Coast Avengers is because he Captain got fighting all the time in regular Avengers. So it's finally like, all right, Hawkeye, you just go to California, start your own Avengers.
They put him on the Twitter block list.
Okay, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Hey,
yes.
Yeah, I can hear you. Now I can't.
Okay, yeah, it was a total mind swap. So Bethany Cabe is currently in Madame Mask's body, and Madame Mask is currently in Bethany's body.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. As far as the formation of the West Coast Avengers, it was actually something that the Vision suggested. Because I was just reading the comics where the West Coast Avengers was formed. And basically, it was the Vision, when he was in charge of the Avengers for a while, deciding that they needed a West Coast contingent. And then they didn't really explicitly say that Hawkeye needs to go to the West Coast because he can't get along with Captain America. But I mean, yeah, kind of. And I think probably also, if you zoom out to what the real world considerations were, one of the problems with the Avengers book was a lot of times there were just too many characters to juggle, right? So you had to, every once in a while, you'd have these issues where we're going to rejigger the team, so we only have 6, or, you know. So I think in this era, it was just them saying, okay, we've got too many Avengers again, so let's split them up. So we have 2 different books dealing with Avengers, but each book only has a manageable number of Avengers to work with, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know X-Men used to do that a lot. They still do, actually. That makes sense.
They still do. The number of X-Men books that are published monthly these days is ridiculous. Yeah, if you want to be completely conversant on what's going on in X-Men, you have to spend like $50 or something a month. Like,
yeah,
it's crazy. It's like trying to follow Batman over at DC. Like, you have to spend so much money to keep track of everything. That's why I don't really follow the X-Men that much. So, at least not current year X-Men, especially since current year X-Men aren't the real X-Men anyway. So
we just have to go back and read old stuff from now on.
Yeah. Yeah, so Tony shows up at the West Coast Avengers headquarters to pick up his armor, this is where we're going to get the reveal of the new armor. Boom. The Silver Centurion armor, which is a lot of people's favorite Iron Man armor, I understand. So, and it is one of the good designs.
Oh, really?
I also like Alex Ross's current design too. That's like one of the only things I like about the current run, but
see, it's consistent with what Iron Man generally looks like, but has its own distinct flair, especially with the coloring, right? You squint and it looks like Iron Man.
Yeah. So how would you rank this one? Just you personally, right, Geek? On like a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best, what would you give this?
Definitely at least a 9, if not a 10.
Nice.
It's definitely in the top 2 for sure. Yeah.
You see, I was never familiar with this era, so it never had like a childhood impact on me. But now that I kind of look at it as like a artist, designer, I like a lot of traits about it, like really good broad shoulders. It has some of the elements of the skin tight look, but then a few robotic elements to make it feel like that make it feel more like armor and less like spandex that he just calls armor. Details like the boots. I think it's just a solid design, and it has like, I think the Iron Man grimace is a big thing too, because he should always have like that stern knightly look, and he's got that in spades on this design. It doesn't really have any extraneous details. It doesn't have like anything like the wing tips or the pointy things that some of the other designs do. Yeah, it's a solid little design.
Yeah, that's why I didn't like Say the Heroes Are Born armor design, because there was just too much going on. Something simple and streamlined is really what we need to have.
Well, my question would be, where are his organs? I mean, does he even have any organs in that? I mean, look at it. Like, especially his shoulder organs, right? Like, are his shoulder organs going to fit in that? No, I think it's fine too. For me, I actually do like really baroque, weird looking armor with lots of ornamentation and stuff, right? Like I'm like a high gothic armor kind of fan. Like if it were me making Iron Man, I'd have him with like a German saddle and like all sorts of fluted armor everywhere and giant rocket packs coming out and. But basically make him like a cross between like a Gothic Knight and a Gundam or something. But I can see like if you're looking for that kind of streamlined, sleek Iron Man look, this would be pretty good. I do remember this look from when I was a kid. I didn't read any of these era Iron Man comics, but I do remember that being like, oh yeah, that was like the old Iron Man from when I was a baby kind of thing. So maybe that's one of the things that I was thinking in the back of my mind, right? Like to me, this I associate this with like being like 2 years old or something, right? You got to get a more grown up Iron Man with all the pockets.
Well, that's me with like Jim Lee's X-Men, being on all the Pizza Hut commercials. Come to Pizza Hut, kids, and you can get a VHS tape of the X-Men cartoon. No, I don't feel bad about that. I feel great about that. I want that back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. But
return, as we always say on Twitter. Return with
the only thing that I don't like about this, there is one thing that I don't like about this, and I think it might just be like the new artists and things, is that it's far more prone to showing his eyeballs, especially like the last couple episodes in this one. They draw his eyeballs and it looks really disconcerting. His eyeballs showing through
instead of like the magical glowing eyes or the magical dark slits. Yeah.
Instead it's like just big eyeballs just kind of poking out slits, and it's really disconcerting to me. I don't know if that bothers anyone else, but
we've just seen the rebirth of Iron Man.
Dum, dum, dum.
Dum dum dum. Meanwhile, if I can get the slides to work. Yeah, so he's got this entire giant lab trying to reproduce the armor.
Huge billion-dollar
Project
lab
Ironmonger.
trying to do what trying to do what Tony Stark can do in a cave by himself.
As you know, Stane International was once Stark International. When Stark, yeah, what Tony could do, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
you still there, Ruggy?
He left some strange things behind. Things he undoubtedly forgot. And one of them was this. A notebook with a few scribblings dealing with the Iron Man's armor. So he's using a notebook that Tony left behind to build his own armor.
He's cheating off his homework.
Yeah, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Okay, I think I might be behind you guys.
I hear Punchy okay. I hear Right Geek. There was a little stutter to it. So hopefully it'll resolve itself in a minute like it did last time.
I think I may be on a delay. Can you hear me right now?
I can hear you
Russian
right now.
Bots.
Okay, yeah, I'm on a little bit of a delay, I think, but not.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, that's definitely on a delay.
Yes.
Sorry if I start talking over you. I guess it's
All right, so there's the Ironmonger suit. All right, so Stane's building the Ironmonger suit. Hello, Punchy. Are you there?
Hello. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay.
We're all here. I think there's just a ridiculous delay. I might try stepping out and stepping back in again to see if that helps.
That's what I try. I was on maybe a 15 to 20 second delay, I think. So
okay.
This is the most boomerish stream ever.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's all.
Sorry, guys. Sorry for all the technical difficulties.
It's all the Russians. That's what I blame.
Yeah.
We really need to get Elon Musk in here, right? Like get Elon Musk to team up with Iron Man to help us with our stream. Send some of those satellite internet things to save us.
Here's my thumbnail. I've had an appointment with Obadiah Stane for a long time. I've had an appointment with Obadiah Stane for a long time. That's what I chose for my thumbnail for obvious reasons.
Is it just me, or is that disconcerting? The eyeballs.
I was never particularly bothered by them. All right, Marm's back. Hello, Marm. Can you hear me?
Hey, it sounds great. Yeah.
All right.
More manic Stane.
Yeah, this was another great panel. I love the way is. Hello. God, we're incompetent.
Okay, I can hear you, Punchy, but I can't hear Marm right now.
Oh, I wasn't talking. Sorry.
Yeah,
but I can hear you both.
Okay.
I'll mute my mic.
Okay, all right. So, okay. He is not destroyed. He is not vanquished. He is not groveling in the gutter. He is here. He is demanding a confrontation. Will nothing rid me of him? Yeah. Great panel. He is not vanquished. Oh no. Let's see. What other great panels have I snapped here? Maybe a circuits breaker will rid me of him. So he's trying another one of those giant machines. And then he also sends the chessmen after him again. So here we have the chessmen going after him.
And Tony underscores how these guys gave him trouble before.
Basically. So he's able to dispatch them fairly easily.
And yet he still takes the time to save their lives.
Right.
Unlike Stane, who's already killed, what, like 2 of them, I think?
He definitely killed the first knight. He had the first knight killed. I don't remember if he offed one of the bishops or not.
Yeah, and when Tony is able to succeed against the chessmen, this is when Obadiah Stane decides, I'm going to do it myself, right? So this is when he dons the Ironmonger armor. But I really like. I was just thinking that one thing that I really like about this story is the fact that once Tony goes through it, he develops an armor that is more advanced and more powerful than any other armor he's had before. It's almost like that experience of adversity, that growth experience has helped him to level up and become a more powerful and more confident person, which I think that's a really good thing to say to readers about how valuable adversity can be, right? So there's Stane in the Ironmonger armor. He's decided he's going to confront Tony himself instead of using all of his proxies.
Yeah, well, okay, I don't know if I should jump ahead because this is kind of using info from several pages ahead. Would that be all right, Geek? Cool. What do you think? Should I just save it? Because just in relation to what you were saying about Tony leveling up through his own personal experience, because one of Stane's great downfalls here is the fact that Stane doesn't have the personal experience, right? Like, because Stane also has a really cool Ironman or Ironmonger armor. He's saying it's more advanced than anything Tony's ever built, and Tony even concedes that in many ways it's more advanced than the suit that he's got now. But it wasn't built by Stane, and Stane doesn't have any sort of personal experience to back it up, right? Like, he had other people do all the work for him. He kind of sat back and gloated and drank his champagne and played with his mind control waifus. And that lack of experience and that lack of struggle on Stane's part is part of why he winds up. Well, you know, we'll see what winds up happening, but it leads to his downfall.
And the fact that Tony puts 2 and 2 together, that it's based off of his original design. He even knows some things in his designs that he knows how Stane's armor works in some respects based on his knowledge of his own designs that Stane doesn't know. So they copied Tony's notes, and then it works the way Tony built it to work, and they in ways that actually surprise Obadiah Stane.
If my slides would just work.
Yeah, it's all Tony's experience is what gives him the edge here. It's not necessarily the cool Iron Man suit, but it's the fact that Tony has been struggling all this time, and he's able to use that struggle in a very positive way to overcome lazy, gloaty, waifu kidnapping Stane. So.
By the way, the golden arches are copyrighted Tony Stark. He owns McDonald's.
No, well, this is a single arch, the golden arch, not golden arches, so it's different.
Yeah. It'd be great if the presentation could work.
Google's messing with you again. Yeah.
Well, that time it might have been McDonald's. Maybe
there was a detail. I'm curious if you guys picked up on this or if I'm nuts. So it felt like when Stane stepped out in the Ironmonger armor, it looked like he had an antennae on his shoulder, and I couldn't tell if that was the part of the armor or if that was like something behind him that my brain was misinterpreting. Because then later they talk about how he's receiving broadcast signals from the computer to help him control the armor. So I thought, oh, it's like the antenna on his shoulder. That's like the thing that Tony's looking at to figure out how his armor is working. But then I didn't see the antenna in every panel. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because I don't remember the antenna being in the panel. Let me just look it up. Do you remember what?
I only saw it. What's weird is I only saw it on like big full page reveal. It looked like he had an antenna on his shoulder, but then I didn't see it after that.
Oh, all right. I pulled up the page. It's like I don't have the page number here, but yeah, there's a big full page of him, and there's like a white thing shooting off like the back of his left hand shoulder. Yeah, the antenna is there in the other ones. When he's flying out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is there. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. Well, some panels it's there, some panels it's not. But it's usually there. It's a continuity.
What the artist felt like drawing. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the artist if he feels like drawing it. It looks like a lot of the shots where there's like action.
Yeah, that is.
He's getting hit.
Yeah,
it disappears.
Yeah, and the fact that he is not controlling it himself, but he is allowing the computer to control the Ironmonger armor is part of his downfall too. Because once Tony realizes that, he can destroy basically the control center, and now he doesn't have control of the armor anymore, right? So big explosion. That's the control center going up, if I recall correctly.
R.I.P. Control Center. Buffer is revenge.
Yep. And now he's going in to rescue his kidnapped friends here. And Stane says, if you value their lives, do not move. Do not move a muscle. The walls of the chamber are honeycombed with photoelectric cells, sensitive to the slightest motion. If you do move, those cells will trigger a circuit, which will send 200,000 volts into your friends. That is 4 times the electricity needed to kill him. So directly fighting him with the armor didn't work. So now we're once again going to attack Tony where he lives, which is his care for his friends. But the good news is Tony is a lot smarter than Stane thinks he is.
Now this is kind of a callback to the Rhodey event in Scotland too, right? Like right at the very beginning,
Yeah.
where he was doing a similar
Yeah.
thing, using Rhodey to bait him.
Yep. But see, now Tony is confident enough to realize that he can take out the power center that would have sent the electric shock, right?
Using his brain in a situation where he literally can't move. I love it.
So, boom. Right there, he destroys the thing that would have. Yeah, yep. Yeah, so we have Tony using his brain, using his experience, which is what great confrontations in an Iron Man comic look like. They don't look like Tony just punching things without any plan or strategy. Christopher can't write well. Anyway. I will never not express resentment for that. Anyway. Let's see if the presentation can ever come back.
It's because issue 200 is such a special issue. Google can't process all the awesomeness in issue 200. It really does feel like a special issue.
Yeah.
I love how they built up perfectly to have 200, the milestone issue, be the climax of the Stane like Stark rivalry. Oh yeah, baby's in danger. Yeah. Okay, no, it wasn't the Comics Code Authority.
Baby's
it was like
in danger,
4 kids. It was 4 kids that didn't want a baby in danger, I think. Well, let me look that up. It might have been the Comics Code Authority that didn't want babies in danger.
Anyway,
this is what they want to take away from you.
Yeah. So, baby's in danger. So, Stane has now been driven to such desperation that he's going to threaten the baby. Yes, either you remove your helmet or I'll crush this frail flesh to pulp between my palms. So Stane is so much of a psychopath that he would even kill a baby if it means that he wins against Tony. Yeah, and this is where Tony finally takes out his control center, right? Because he realized all along, again, using his brain, using his thinking and experience, that Obadiah was not controlling the armor himself. He was using the computer to control it. So take out the computer and the armor fails to work, right? Yeah, and of course, can't preview. Yeah, this issue is just so awesome. Google Drive can't process it. Yeah, I mean, manages to rescue the baby, who kind of doesn't look like a baby in that art, but
oops.
Oh well.
Looks like a 30-year-old man, baby.
But he looks like a midget
Take good care
Donald
of this kid,
Trump.
mister. Take real good care. And then we never see that baby again, which, as I said earlier,
Wah, wah.
The baby grows up to be Donald Trump.
Kind
Spoiler
of.
warning. That's why we never see him again.
I started with one scholarship from Mr. Tony Stark.
Wah, wah. Come on, Google.
Out. All right. Well, I mean, that's basically. Oh no! Well, actually, because they do have the
dramatic. Okay, the dramatic end of Stane. Do we want to spoil that?
Yeah.
I like it. I like how it's
spoiled in 2 seconds.
Yeah, I like how it's directly connected with his childhood, and I like how his version of it is more comic booky. Like his dad shot himself in the head, and Stane incinerates. He atomizes his own head. It's just gone. There's nothing there.
Yeah. Yo, was that
yeah?
Because
so
was that actually what he does? then? Like, did he ever come back, or?
No, he's dead. He's dead. He definitely killed himself.
Okay.
Yeah, so Stane is a psychopath, but he's also a coward. He would rather die than actually face his own defeat.
He's the lesser
Which-
man to Tony. Yeah, and for
Compare
him,
that
it's
to Tony,
his final
right? Which I think
It's his
we're
way of
meant to do.
denying. Yeah, he's denying Tony a victory.
Just went through a period where he was defeated, and he almost killed himself, but he didn't, because he's the hero, and he realizes that even in defeat, you can learn. Yeah, he can still be a man. He can.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that kind of.
I was saying that, compare that to. I think we're meant to compare that to Tony's journey here, right? Because he did get to the place where he almost did choose to die, but then he was a man in the situation, and he realized that he needed to seek out help and get himself out of that hole and actually confront the mistakes that he had made and grow and become a better person. Whereas Stane is unwilling to do that. Once he is defeated, he can't live with that defeat, so he kills himself.
Yeah, well, I think it that gets back to what they were saying earlier about Stane not realizing the difference between life and games, right? Because for Stane, it's a game. His fight with Tony is the game, and he gets put into checkmate. There's no more moves, so the game's over. He's lost. Whereas, with someone like Tony, obviously, he's not thinking of it like a game. He's thinking of it like, life, and you have things after you lose, and you have other games afterwards. But, Stane's just, it gets back to his chess nerdery. I guess the moral of the story is don't play chess, kids, because it makes you bold and it makes you crazy.
Don't reduce life to a chess game if you are a chess nerd. Yeah, because then you might actually lose at chess if you lose it.
I mean, do you think that was an effective way of getting back at Tony, though? I mean, Tony's obviously like, "Oh no, Stane."
Well, it kind of works because when they ask him what happened, he says somebody lost. Right? He doesn't say I won. I think Tony's a sympathetic enough person that he feels bad even if an evil person dies. So I think Stane, read Tony well.
He clearly cares, right? Like he's a hero. He doesn't gloat and take joy in the death of Stane. But I mean, is that really like, incinerating your own head just to make Tony feel a little bad?
I feel like it shows Stane's ugliness. He only cares about his little game to the point of hurting himself and losing, right? So he's a sore loser.
So it's like a petty.
Yeah, I'll show you. Boom. There. Like he doesn't even do the thing where it's like, oh, I'll come up with another plan to get back at you, Tony Stark, while I'm in prison. Just nope. He banked everything on defeating Tony in this one encounter, and he didn't get it.
You okay, right, Geek?
I hear you okay, Punchy, but I haven't heard from Right Geek. Do you want to say something, Right Geek?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I think she's responding to 8 seconds ago again.
Or like 30 seconds ago.
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Yeah. What happened? Like Ming in the Flash Gordon movie.
Yes. Yes, I do. 1 second.
Okay, yeah, that's really off, right, Geek?
Yeah. I was gonna say the real moral to this, aside from the joke moral of don't play chess or you'll become a bald psychopath, the real moral to this is that don't value winning above all else. I think that's the real moral, because Stane valued winning above anything else, to the point that he was willing to do anything to achieve victory. And when he did not win, that was something that he couldn't tolerate. Tony, on the other hand, he lost, and lost big, and basically was deconstructed down to basically unmanned and humiliated, and forced into the absolute nadir of his life. And rather than saying, well, that's it, that's the end, he was a man and realized that he had to confront the mistakes and flaws in his character that brought him to that point, and become a better person in doing so. So because he did not value winning and victory above all else, he was able to come out of this scenario, not the winner, at least the survivor, right? So because he's being driven by other things than just winning and being ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. One thing that I would say though is, I mean, he did actually give up. He did actually decide to kill himself for a little while, and he would have wound up dead had it not been for the baby, right? Like that was kind of the Deus Ex Machina that sort of came in right at the last minute and saved his life. So I guess
Something
I don't know,
in life woke Tony up.
The point,
basically.
the point is not. Yeah, well, it's not that. Well, let me revise a little bit. So it's not that he doesn't give up; it's that he doesn't give up forever. I think that's the difference. And then the other difference, of course, is that Tony has humanity. So when something like a helpless baby, enters his life, that's actually it's actually able to wake him up, because he has that humanity, because he has that heroic core. A baby would not have brought Stane back from the brink in any way, because Stane is a psychopath who has no human connection to anybody.
Yeah, well, I mean, a baby was literally one of his last plans to get back at Tony. Like crushing a baby was one of his last resorts. So,
yeah.
The very same baby,
and I'm
too,
sure
right?
that was. Yeah, so I'm sure that was deliberate on Denny's part. I think that Denny wanted us to see that parallel. Tony sees a baby, and it wakes him up. It forces him to be a man, to confront his flaws, and to dig himself and to climb back out of that hole he was in. Right? Stane sees a baby and says, "Ooh, more leverage." Right? I think we are supposed to see it that way. So.
Yeah, Stane sees the baby and thinks, "Ooh, squish baby." Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think it's like I don't think it's so much him not giving up, since again I think he did give up, and I think he would have been dead if it weren't for the baby. But I think the humanity point is absolutely relevant. I think the humanity of Tony Stark is what brought him back from the brink of death, and it's what might have been able to bring back Stane if he wasn't a complete douche nozzle. But it's layers upon layers.
Yeah.
Stane didn't respond to life interrupting his chess game. Tony was defeated, but he did respond when life kind of shook him out of his death spiral.
Right. And we could see, like, when he was in the middle of his death spiral, just to go back to materials from previous stream, we had that issue where he hooks up with the guy who's living in the cardboard box, and he actually gives up his cufflinks to protect the guy in the cardboard box, right? Like there was intimations all along. This is how well planned it is. There were intimations all along that yes, Tony is on this death spiral. He's circling the drain, right? But there is still that core of humanity in him that eventually that's what's going to wake him back up again. And that is, as we said, that is a humanity that Stane does not have. So of course Stane is not going to look at a loss and say, "Oh, I can come back from this." He doesn't have that capability, right?
Right.
Okay, so that is the end of our climactic issue. Let's start sharing our final thoughts at this point.
So Denny O'Neil left. Did Denny O'Neil leave after this issue?
No, there's a couple issues after that, and then Michelini and Layton come back in, I believe, if I recall the sequence correctly.
Well, I think Denny did a great job. He knew the themes of his story from the beginning, like the chess. Before we even knew who Stane was, we knew the chess thing was going to be an important motif. Tony's arc feels real, and Rhodey's arc feels real, and they've been related together nicely. There have been some like moments of what I would call comic book dramatic energy, like when Rhodey is mad at Tony, he says, "I hate him," and he says it with all the intensity in the world, which I think that's part of what the genre is in superhero comics. We have the emotion intensity cranked up to 11, but it feels human and it feels real. And it feels like some very genuine thought was put into the relation of Iron Man to Tony's alcoholism and recovery. And also Tony and Rhodey's personal baggage problems that were preventing them from coming into their own as heroes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, again, for me, I think my main interest in this has been Rhodey all along. Tony's storyline is really interesting, and it's a great kind of fall from grace and then build back up story. But I really like Rhodey. I like his pluck. I like his attitude. And I'm really, if I was reading this for the first time in like 1983 or whatever, I think I'd be really, really eager to see more of Rhodey, even more so than more of Tony. Stane again, I thought he was a good villain. I liked the chess autism. I'm actually kind of shocked that he evaporated his head at the end. So you're saying like he's never come back then, or Rhodey?
No. Relatives have come back, but not him. He is definitely dead.
Okay.
So unless somebody clones him.
Don't give him ideas. Please don't give him ideas. But yeah, I think it was a fitting end. I think it was a fitting end for him. The side characters I really enjoyed. The Godzilla thing was a bit goofy, but it was fine. And compared to Civil War, there's not as much punching. It would have been nice to have seen Hawkeye, just suddenly start attacking Iron Man, and then they just spend, 3 issues just kicking each other in the face. But I think as a story, it works pretty well. He became the late 80s Lex Luthor in DC. Yeah, maybe that was what it was. When did Lex Luthor start looking just like Stane? Was that before or after Stane was a thing? Do you happen to know?
I feel like 90s Lex Luthor was when he had like the red mullet and beard. Dang, I don't know much about 80s Superman. Sorry, gang.
Yeah, but anyways, the Lex Luthor aside, Superman aside, who shouldn't be drawn. I'd just like to go on record and restate that, because I don't know if you guys caught that Twitter autism that I was caught up in for like 3 days on Matt's channel.
Oh no.
Is it? Yeah. No, I was basically arguing that Superman should be should be consumed by iconoclasm. I was arguing for an iconic Superman rethink. Stop drawing him. It was actually based on because people were complaining about Alex Ross, right, Geek? There was a whole thread about people saying they don't like Alex Ross, and I was trying to defend Alex Ross Superman, and came to the conclusion that Superman can only be drawn as a bolt of lightning. It cannot be depicted in human form. But yeah, all that aside, I thought this run was quite good. I'm a little bit disappointed in that I've heard from many people that this is the best Iron Man run, and while it was great, I did really like it. It's also kind of sad to think that I will never read another Iron Man story as good as this. So hopefully you're wrong, Right Geek. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that Right Geek is actually wrong about something with Iron Man, and that this is in fact not the best. That there are other ones that are equally good or even better. Still waiting for me to see. But yeah, I mean, I'd actually say, like, as far as like Western comics, like if this was the Western comic that I had read when I was a little kid, I would have been a massive Iron Man fan for the rest of my life. It is great. So anyone who's been watching this or happens to catch this at the end or whatever, if you haven't read it, definitely check it out, because it's a load of fun. Except for the rougher stuff, I disavow that. And the eyeballs.
And the gay Rhodey.
Yeah, and the gay Rhodey. Well, the gay Rhodey is kind of fun, but you know what I mean. It's still good.
Yeah. Well, when I say that this is the best Iron Man run, that is, of course, my personal opinion. It is one that a lot of people share. But Punch, for all I know, you might, when we look at other Iron Man comics that are up there in the leaderboard of goodness, you might decide that you like one of those other storylines better. I mean, it's subjective, really, which Iron Man run is the best.
No.
The only thing that's
no, come on.
The only thing that's really objective.
Right, Geek. Come on. With Iron Man, there is no subjective with Right Geek. Right Geek knows Iron Man so well that you are the Leyland Chi of Iron Man. So if you say this is the best Iron Man, that's subjective.
But is she the Tony Fauci of Iron Man?
I don't know.
The expert class who says hashtag the science on what the best.
It is the
Iron Man
science.
comic
Yeah.
is.
It is the science. I would say it's the science. So. Settled science. Don't argue with it.
Twitter. If any of us tweet that this isn't the best run, Twitter corrects us and links us to a Wikipedia page on why this actually is the best.
Say. Fact checkers and experts have reviewed Marmaduke fans tweet that this is not the best, and yeah.
But one quick question before we go. Next time, should we do cringe or should we do something good?
I've kind of been spoiled on doing
I'll ask
good
Warzone
comics.
that too.
My vote would be for more good stuff.
One of the things that I was thinking, because okay. Well, I'd mentioned like Squirrel Girl. And I think we discussed it like off stream, off camera. It turns out actually Kyrie Matt from Kyrie, he actually really likes Squirrel Girl. So that might be something.
And like
maybe not
like 2016 stream girl. He likes the Erica Henderson incarnation.
Yeah, the Erica Henderson, Ryan North. Squirrel Girl. So I mean that could be a possibility. If there are any like mangas, because I know Right Geek doesn't usually read mangas, so maybe there's some like really good mangas that could get her into manga. Like if you know one, Marmaduke.
Well, we could try it. We could try a mecha thing, since that kind of fits roughly with the theme of Iron Man. You know, piloting a suit of robotic armor.
Maybe there's like some really good mecha. Of course, I love One Punch Man. I'm always spurging about it, and there's Sonichu, which is cringe, I guess. And a lot of cringe comics from current year. So do the Doom Iron Man.
There's an Iron Man.
One that
there's an Iron Man manga.
Yeah. There is, yeah.
Okay.
Can I get it?
And there's another one coming out too that I think is. There's another one coming out this year sometime that is Iron Man and Spider-Man. I saw it advertised.
Okay, that could be interesting. Or maybe because I'm trying to think of what might be an appropriate like manga equivalent of Iron Man. All I'm really coming up is maybe like Appleseed or Ghost in the Shell or something that's like kind of cyberpunky, but with like regular sized people rather than humongous robots. Or I don't know. We'd have to think.
We'll take recommendations in the chat.
Yeah. Well, Warzor just said the Doom on Iron Man time travel, which is definitely on my to-do list. Yes, Doom Quest is one we should do. And Legacy of Doom, which is one done later by the same people. I do want to do the Can't Well update. I do want to do the Can't Write Well update though, because oh my gosh, I have so much to say about that, as you well know if you follow me on Twitter. So,
all right, well, we'll introduce it.
All right,
we'll
so
revisit a
we
little.
Do have some ideas. Yeah. Yeah, but I get what you're saying too, Marm, about being spoiled on the good stuff. So, I do think that I am due for a Cantwell cringe update, but I think after that we'll try to find some more good stuff to do.
All right, bada bing.
Bada bing. All right. So thank you, everyone out there who are listening in real time, and thank you to those of you who will be listening to this later. I was very happy to present Denny O'Neill's Iron Man run to you and to my guests. Yes, this is my favorite one. Yes, I think it is the best run. Punchy is saying that my opinion is objective, so there you go.
It's settled science. There you go. The settled science. Don't question it.
Yeah, settled science. Fact checkers say. Anyway, so probably the next stream is going to be Can't Write Well update cringe, but then after that we'll do some more good stuff.
Right, more to come. Looking forward to it.
More to come. Yes. Again, thank you guys for listening, and we will talk to you later.